Good morning, everybody. How you doing? This is John DeCarlo along with Declan Landis and Johnny Zawizlak from OwlScoop.com. We are live from the South Philadelphia Tap Room at 1509 Mifflin Street. We are, 2 or 3 subway stops from the link?
I have no
so.
idea.
Yeah.
It's the Tasker Morris is right here.
Get
We're
off
definitely somewhere.
Yes.
So then
you
it'd
are
be-
very directionally challenged.
All right, relax.
Apologize for the sun glare, but we are at the beautiful South Philly Tap Room, as I said. Come on down and join us. Obviously, if you're watching on the live stream on YouTube, welcome in. Got a great show for everybody today. We will also be mixing in Jason Nieves, Colin Schofield, and Ryan Mack from our staff as well. We're going to be talking Temple football, Temple basketball, the men's and women's teams both playing at LaSalle this weekend. The men at 4 o'clock later today, and then the women tomorrow at 2 p.m. The common denominator there is if they both win, they move on to play for the Big Five Classic Championship. If the Owls win today, they will play St. Joe's again, just like they did last year. And if the women win tomorrow, they will play for the first Women's Big Five Classic Championship this coming Friday at the Finneran Pavilion at Villanova. But we've got a ton of stuff to get into. Some additional news on the football coaching search. We will preview today's Temple North Texas football game. I know that's maybe not necessarily at the forefront of everybody's minds because it's been a disappointing football season, certainly.
That's one way to put it.
Yes, yes. So Colin and Ryan and Jay will be down there covering the game for us. Rymir Vaughn just walked in.
Wow.
What a treat.
Wow, I did not know.
We're
10
blessed.
Lives, Rymir Vaughn stopping in. Saw Rymir a couple days ago. Guys, before we get into the thick of the show here, how was everybody's Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great. Went over to my aunt's house, had some sweet potatoes, turkey, green bean casserole, all the there. What a beautiful dap up. Oh, I guess it's my turn.
You can see Rymir's hand there.
I was very thankful. I think
wanna
I was
mic?
very thankful on this Thanksgiving. So,
Grab a mic.
John, how was your Thanksgiving?
Welcome back.
It was wonderful. This guy right here, Rymir Vaughn, stopped by again and then probably silently judged our meal.
No, I did.
Sent him home with plenty of leftovers.
I can give you a review if you want one.
Yeah, give us a review.
Well, first off, I want to thank Chelsea because she made the best bacon wrap dates. They were amazing. I wanted to give Declan some, but I forgot.
Yeah, we were busy.
Yeah, we was watching the game. Turkey was a little dry. I'm not gonna lie, but it's hard to make turkey. Everyone overcooks turkey.
I don't want to be that guy, but he
did
did
get
say
there.
my dad's turkey was better than yours.
Oh.
I didn't want to be that guy.
It was perfect.
I don't wanna be that guy.
Lie. It was perfect. It was perfect.
And he had it microwaved, so
Everything else was really good though.
So if we had
Everything else was
microwaved your leftovers, well, we did microwave your leftovers.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think that would have changed anything. Sorry.
Jeez.
just be better next time. That's all.
Completely deflated now for the rest of the show.
It's
This
okay,
is
though.
this is very.
This is a
brutal,
learning
John.
moment, John.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
Live in front of
And you got
all
to
of our
meet
viewers.
Your dog children again.
Oh yeah. It was good seeing Bear again. Cece
Yeah.
was a little
Yeah,
shy.
Cece was very shy. Pearl is a nut, but
Pro was nice.
met my brother, my sister-in-law, my nephew, saw my mom again, my
Mhm.
brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, their daughter Sophia. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
It's good. Good day. Good
A lot
day.
of driving, but it was good.
Yes, had to be a ton of driving. So, yeah, like we said, a super, super busy show for today. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you all by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. Grateful for their support, especially today. If you've been injured while on the road of the highway and the crash was somebody else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us. Temple Law grads will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win. So in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. We're not doing on around the state today, are we?
Do you want to? I don't have it pulled up. I can get it pulled up though.
Good.
Only if you
we could
really,
stall.
really want to.
Well, I mean,
Peek behind
here,
the-
I'll stall while
This is like actually how it happens too. So now we're documenting it live.
yeah, they can see how it really
How I
happens.
actually pull it up.
But
We'll
John,
give you-
you've
go ahead,
come
John.
you've come to the realization that Declan's father, Papa Landis's turkey, was better than yours. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Declan has a wonderful family. I don't take any objection to it.
No, you don't. You don't like. There's no like. I'm going to come back better next year. Like nothing.
I do think if Ramir had gotten there, we weren't sure when we were going to start eating. When the turkey came right out of the oven. It was really good. It was really moist. It was still good.
Yeah.
Ramir got there around like 4-ish.
Okay.
So, I don't know. But I'm not gonna sit here and come to blows with Declan over the turkey.
I was just trying to stall.
I didn't do anything.
Trying to stall. Trying to incite.
I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both. Two things can be true at the same time.
I also don't like how short we look on camera, but that's you look like this hulking figure.
We do. I mean, it's that just means that we have a lot of headroom. They're just trying to show off the tap room,
Guys, we are actually going to be joined right now by Kevin Negandhi of ESPN. So
just use the speaker. We'll be
okay. So we're going to bring Kevin in right now. Give us 1 second here. There he is. Kevin, you got us?
Hey, fellas. How we doing?
Wait.
Go to the settings.
Hold on.
Turn your speaker up. Turn your volume up.
Hold on 1 second, Kevin.
Love the live podcast format here.
Here we go.
All right, try now.
How about now? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we
There
go.
we go.
Perfect.
Working out the glitches for our first live show. Kevin Negandhi, Temple alum, ESPN Sports Center. You see him all over the place. He's got a super, super busy day ahead with college football coverage, ESPN and ABC. So we're super grateful for your time. How you doing, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. Right before I hopped on, I was watching College Game Day, and I saw Mike Elko there, and I just said to myself, and my brother and I are watching, I said, what could have been? What could have been? Felt like that was the turning point of where we are right now as we are in our third head coaching change since the opportunity to hire Elko. So
yeah, absolutely. And then for those of you who are not familiar, so when Jeff Collins left and Temple embarked upon its coaching search there, they offered the job to Mike Elko. He turned it down. Offered it to Manny Diaz. He accepted for 14, 16 days or so. Yes. Then came the 3-year Rod Carey disaster. Then Stan Drayton, who, as you all know, was dismissed a couple weeks ago after the FAU game. So here we are now covering yet another coaching search. Kevin, you and I are hearing pretty much the same three names that are kind of starting to emerge here. Elijah Robinson, Syracuse's defensive coordinator, and, of course, a former defensive line coach of Matt Rule's at Temple. Then you've got Casey Keeler, who's at Sam Houston State, and you've got Charles Huff at Marshall. Kind of wanted to go down the line with you here and talk about kind of the merits of each one of those guys. And we continue to get the sense that Arthur Johnson, Temple's athletic director, is prioritizing head coaching experience. So if he is, the only head coaching experience Elijah has had was when he was the interim head coach at Texas A&M. But I do want to start with him because there's definitely a case to be made for Elijah, right? He was at Temple when things were really good. He's a great recruiter. He's a very respected football coach. You and I both get the sense that it would energize the fan base a little bit to the degree that they can be energized right now. And I think that a lot of former players would get behind it. So let's start with Elijah. We'll make the case for why Elijah would be a good next head football coach at Temple.
So I do want to say I was part of the coaching search with Pat Kraft for that replacement of Jeff Collins, and I was in the room when we made the offer to Elko. He was very impressive, and I really appreciate Pat Kraft for allowing me to be a part of that process because, I love college football and I'm immersed in it, and I'm around many of the power players behind the scenes. So it was great to experience all that, and obviously talk to the right people and understand why he had the right stuff to take over that program at the time. Unfortunately, we didn't get the chance to get him here. I will say that Elijah checks every single box, I think, for what this program needs. We all know that Temple's a very unique situation, Temple football. To win here, you've got to understand the DNA. And I'll go back to, what Al Golden started, what Adazio tried to carry through, what Matt Rule made sure happened, right? And then Jeff Collins, after understanding how to recruit the specific players in the area, building that pipeline of 1 or 2 star guys like the Hassan Reddicks of the world, the Deion Dawkins of the world, building so they see it prosper year 3, year while they're with the program. They're loyal, they're from there, they understand. It's finding gems like Tyler Maddox overlooked by everybody, and guess who was a part of that? Elijah understands the DNA of Temple football. He knows how to win locally, and when I say locally, that means going into a kid's home and selling the facts on why the difference. It's also recruiting kids that they want to go somewhere else and back home. I speak for myself who experienced that. And I wanted to come back home. And coming back to Temple was the best decision of my life. We saw that with a handful of guys in the for a year. That stars in Philadelphia, they want to experience big-time college athletics. And they find Mark immediately Temple basketball. He's one of those guys that can connect to so many people. He understands how to win. You can have a great resume outside. You don't know how to win here in Philadelphia. You don't know how to recruit. You don't know how to maintain. You don't know how to connect with alum. You're not going to win. I bring up the Bobby Wallace experience. Phenomenal resume, right? He was a broken man for a couple years because winning at Temple is really hard. Trying to recruit players, and 25 years later, it's still the same story. Are you going to maintain players that will play? Can you identify with? I think Elijah checks all the resume. He was year 1, had the experience. At Taylor, there, offered a job. Following friends how to win big time.
Kevin, we kind of you're chopping up a little bit here. I don't know if you can move like a little closer to your phone there. Let's talk about Casey Keeler. So if Arthur's prioritizing head coaching experience, you've got a guy who has won, I think he's the only coach in America, right, who's won 2 FCS national championships at 2 different places. And I think you and I have talked about this. If he is the head coach at Temple next year, they're probably not going to go into any game with a coaching disadvantage. The guy can flat out coach. On the flip side of it, he's 65 years old, has not coached in this area since 2012. And the skeptic might say, just as you said, does he know Temple? Does he know how to win at Temple? Does he know how to win at Temple in 2024? So he's intriguing. He's interviewed. We know that. And again, the guy knows the game. He's a coaching veteran. This might be his last job. So the skeptic there might say, well, is this a retirement job for him? Is he really motivated? But again, on the flip side, you can't argue with the job he's done at Sam Houston State. And just their second year at the FBS level has not been overwhelmed by that. What are the merits of considering Casey Keeler here, who's very much in the mix?
You bring up a handful of great points. The guy has the resume in the sense of understanding how to win as a head coach. It's just Temple's a unique situation. And as I brought up Bobby Wallace knew how to win somewhere else, right? And for many people that are young that don't understand, I mean, Bobby Wallace, if you looked at his resume before he came to Temple, he knew how to win at his level. This is a completely different thing. And what are your ties to the Philadelphia area? I understand Delaware. Delaware is a different beast to where Temple is, to where Temple was 9 years ago, hosting game day and the entire experience and environment. The age, you mentioned that, like, how much, what's the window? Is it a 2 or 3 year plan? Where, like, to me, more than anything else, you need to understand how to recruit in the area, and you need to bring some juice in the sense of maintaining players that would stay here, right? Because the NIL, the transfer portal, half the job is keeping the players that are already on the roster from not leaving.
Yeah.
So what's the future like? I can't predict that. I don't know Casey personally. It's hard to argue with the resume. I know they got the win against Liberty yesterday, and he's found a way at the FCS level, but that's an environment in Texas. That we just went through that with a former Texas guy, right? And when you come here, it's completely different. There's a major culture shock of understanding how to win at Temple, to get the right guys. I think Al figured it out. Matt laid the groundwork as well, and then Matt built a pipeline of guys that understand it, that want to come back, that want to be a part of it, and it was sustained for years, as you saw, because I thought Jeff did a good job maintaining it, and he brought in a little flair and juice of his guys, and then Rogers rode the coattails of what was created by Matt and Jeff, and then we saw that if you stop doing it, if you stop understanding, if you don't actually have roots in the area, eventually it's going to run out. So that's my concern. Again, if head coaching experience, like you said, is the key here, I bring up one thing. Matt Rule didn't have head coaching experience. Look what happened.
Yeah.
He figured it out. He found a way to connect. I think sometimes head coaching experience can be an overrated thing if you can't connect to modern day kids. Fran Brown had no head coaching experience. Look where we're at. Look what he's doing at Syracuse. Look there, you can see a lot of success. Mike Elko had no head coaching experience, and then Duke took the chance on him, right? And now a few years later, he's at Texas A&M. To me, it is, do you have a head coach who can connect with players, keep players, and then build off of that?
Yeah. Do you think this is Arthur trying to recreate the Signetti magic at Temple, although in Indiana they have different resources? Willie Fritz is an older coach who's been successful. Do you think it's him looking at someone like Casey Keeler might be almost like an overcorrection on his part in that way?
It could be interpreted that way. I don't know. I'm not Arthur. I don't know the approach in all of this. If you connect the dots like you just did with Signetti, I mean, Signetti left a JMU program that like Indiana needed an influx of talent, and I'm sorry, JMU has been tremendous over the last 10 years of understanding how to build the program.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it helped that he got a Matt Kidd and Curtis Rourke who understood at quarterback what to do and how to win, right? Mm-hmm. That plays a different role. So if that is the case, that is a big stretch. That is not something I want to say, well, it happened here, then this could happen here. It's just that's quite a big stretch here. I bring it up again, like specifically, you need a dynamic head coach that can make a connection with players, that understands how to recruit in Philadelphia and South Jersey, the type of players at Temple that can have major impacts in year 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. How about Charles Huff at Marshall? On our podcast this week on OwlScoop, we talked about how, and maybe in some ways, Charles Huff is kind of like what Arthur Johnson hoped Stan Drayton would become. Now, Kyle Gauss pointed this out. The Marshall program that Huff took over was in much better shape than the Temple program that Stan took over. But former running backs coaches, they could say, in Huff's case, hey, I coached Najee Harris, I coached Saquon Barkley. If they were to hire him, you'd see the press releases with quotes from him and stuff. But a guy that's done well at Marshall. He's maybe in the mix for the Southern Miss opening. I don't know what's transpired this morning, but what would you make of him as a potential head coach at Temple?
Again, there's another one that has head coaching experience that understands. It comes from a different level of football. I'll tell you what, you guys, as media guys that cover Temple football, you'd have some entertaining news conferences, I think, each and every week. So from your perspective, you guys will have fantastic quotes each and every week, regardless of the outcome. I think that if it goes back to what you brought up with Arthur and what the job requirement is when it comes to head coaching experience, he knows the area a little bit more. I don't know. Like, I just come back to like, I know there was a disconnect with the university at Marshall. So I come back to one thing. If we're measuring success and understanding Temple, what is your priority? Is head coach experience the biggest thing, or is it specifically how do we connect and understand the fan base? And I come back to Elijah because let me tell you, this fan base, this alumni, past players, they need to see somebody that they can identify and connect with. And Elijah's that guy that connects all the dots to, I think, the past success, and then the future of connecting to kids in the area, in Philadelphia, South Jersey. And he wants the job. Like, this isn't a job like, hey, I want a stepping stone. And listen, let's just say if Elijah or Huff or, Casey, if they succeed, one thing Temple fans need to understand, let's just say they succeed and they leave. And then there's a lot in the fan base that are like, oh, he left us. Guess what? That means they're successful.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason why. The people want another program wants a Temple coach because they're successful. I would take that in a heartbeat, right? I would immediately take that in a heartbeat. I'll tell you what, when you look at the potential of a ceiling, I think Elijah's growth is dramatically higher than anybody else when we talk about the remaining candidates.
Yeah. Make a very compelling case there. Again, we're joined by Kevin Negandhi of ESPN. You're going to see him all over the place later today. Kevin, a couple more quick questions for you, and we'll let you go because we have a super hectic schedule ahead of you. This Temple men's basketball team, they're heading into a game later today at 4 p.m. against LaSalle. On paper, they should win it, but they're going up against Fran Dunphy. We all hear the Fran Dunphy's a nice guy, but he's got some pride. I have to imagine this is a game that he thinks of and says, I wouldn't mind showing them that they made a mistake. And Jaleel White, who went to LaSalle in the transfer portal, wanted to come back to Temple. And I think Adam Fisher said to him, we've talked about this. We've deliberated. Maybe you should go somewhere else. And he's playing some pretty good basketball right now. What do you make of just the job that Adam's done so far? The 10-game losing streak last year. Obviously, the penalties that they got hit with, being without Lynn Greer III for 9 games, being without Chris Clark for 9 games due to the gambling investigation. But what do you think of the roster so far and how they played heading into today?
I think Fish has done a fantastic job of understanding the process, bringing in guys that understand the tempo is so much different from previous years. And I come back to one word, there's juice. It feels like there's juice around when you watch Mashburn. Right? Like, he understands basketball. He understands how to score. If you look at the years in the past, it felt like the offense, even when Fran was there towards the back end, the offense went stagnant, right? It wasn't flowing. That's something that I don't see in Fish in his program right now with the players that he has. It feels like everybody knows their role, what to do early on. And there's juice. Again, like, I think that this fan base is dying to have some type of edge. Yeah. Something to go watch basketball or watch football for. All we want as fans, I think, of anything is hope, right? The belief that we are building something to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And Fish is giving us, he's injecting a little hope here every time we watch Mashburn play. It's like, oh, I can see something. I can see the light bulb go off, right? And that's just dramatically different from, I think, what we've experienced before. It's been a very patient fan base. They've been waiting and waiting and waiting. It's nice to see that there's a little bit of a killer instinct on the offensive side. That let me get mine right now. I got to fill it up. And I just want to enjoy the process while we can, man. Because, again, the Temple fans that support football and basketball and athletics are pretty loyal, and we've been beaten up a lot over the last decade of just waiting and waiting and waiting. It's just nice to see that there's a different narrative right now with Temple hoops, and Fish deserves a lot with a major turnover, man, major turnover. And listen, I'll say this too, because I see some really dumb comments on message boards. Welcome to college athletics and NIL and transfer portal. People want players because your players are pretty darn good. Like, just stop with the complaining constantly. Like, everything is, why do we have to lose this guy? And, I bet he's going to leave. Just enjoy what you have right now, because you never know what you're going to have later. Just live in the moment and enjoy the games. And some of these guys, like get a clue. There are some comments. Just get a clue, because sometimes you just bang your head and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't support college athletics. You don't understand the landscape of college athletics. Just live in the space of 2024. It's not freaking 1994. I miss 1994. I was 19.
We were in high school.
Aaron and Eddie here. It's a completely different world. Coach Chaney, it's a completely different world. Just understand that right now Fish is adjusting and living in the world right now. and we got some ballers on this program. But John, as you could tell, I got a lot to share because, no one at the university really cares my opinion.
Oh, that was good stuff. Kevin, where can people see you and find your work today? Saturdays are always hectic for you. Like I said, we're super grateful for your time today. What's the rest of the day look like for you? If you could take fans into what Saturdays are like for you.
I leave in about 20 minutes to go into work. I'll be in our ABC studios, Booger McFarland and Darren Orlovsky. We've got a handful of fantastic rivalry games, a lot on the line for Tennessee against Vandy. As Tennessee a week ago was like, oh, we're on the outside. And then all of a sudden you saw a handful of teams lose. And now potentially they're trying to secure, a home game in the first round. Our second game is what the heck are we going to see from Alabama after they were just mentally done in Norman. And now they got to deal with an Auburn team coming off their best win. So the Iron Bowl is going to be fantastic. And a lot of pressure on Kalen DeBoer. You think there's pressure at Temple? Kalen DeBoer's seat is warm, and my goodness, I feel bad for him right now in year one. And then the nightcap is Texas and Texas A&M, the winner taking on Georgia in the SEC championship for A&M and Mike Elko. It's basically a playoff game. They lose, they're out of the playoff. Texas, I think, can afford to lose because they whatever you want to make of where they are in the rankings, Texas can afford to lose. The question is, if they were to lose, and how bad would they still have the opportunity to host a playoff game in the first round? So we've got a handful of games. I was there late last night with that 8 overtime thriller with Georgia Tech, which was nuts. But I'll be on ABC all day, and then during the week on ESPN doing Sports Center, and of course leading into all the championship games on ABC, and then the following week, we've got a lot of craziness with the Jimmy V Classic with college hoops and then the Heisman. So can't wait. It's a fantastic time of year. And I just hope, John, that the next time we're all talking, hopefully we have an idea of the head coach and the future is bright for Temple football. We'll see, man. No one cares about my opinion.
I think they do, though, Kevin. 1994, we were just a couple of clueless kids from Chester County just trying to figure out what to do in life, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to see if we can get press passes when Kansas coming to town.
Exactly. I love you, buddy. Thanks so much for making time for us today. Have a great day at work. Tell Monica and the kids we said hello, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, fellas. Go Owls.
All right, buddy.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, good stuff from Kevin Negandhi hopping on.
Great stuff.
Yeah, the message board rant got me.
That was very funny.
That was great.
I love that.
Needed to hear that.
Speaks a lot of truth there. So around 10:30, we are going to talk a little bit about this Temple North Texas football game. Who wants to squeeze in here and talk some Temple football here? Ryan,
buddy, you're running the show.
Ryan and Colin got head down the link a little before 11, right? Why don't we squeeze them in here and talk about this?
That's fine. I got to go anyway too, so they can have my seat.
So say goodbye to Declan Landis' pretty face here. And say hello to the pretty faces of Colin Schofield and Ryan Mack, who are going to be squeezing in here in a second. We're also going to be, Andy, do you want to hop on a little bit? Yeah. We've got Andy Carl from the TUFF Fund here. Talk a little NIL, talk about his lifelong Temple fandom. Jason Yevis is going to be jumping on a little bit later to talk some Temple women's basketball. Again, we are here at the South Philadelphia Tap Room, $3 Kensingers, $3 Walt Whit's. The food is incredible. So stop by on your way to the game, or if you come by a little bit later, we're going to be here till 1 o'clock before we head up to cover LaSalle, the Temple LaSalle basketball game at LaSalle's brand new, beautiful arena. The guy sitting directly next to me, everyone, is Ryan Mack. Behind him, Colin Schofield, Johnny Zwizlak, still running the show back there on the board, guys. Welcome to your scoop debut.
Oh my God!
They're doing it live too, John. They don't even get the grace of getting to cut out their mess ups.
I'm petrified right
you
now.
Should not
shaking in my boots.
You should not be. You're not. First of all, you're not wearing boots. So, but if you're shaking,
he's shaking in his Air Force.
Just relax, guys. How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was pretty good. It was a nice little. Didn't have my family's kind of smaller, so it's just like me. My older brother came down from New York. It was kind of really fun.
Your older brother, who's in a Broadway show, by the way, right?
Yeah, my brother was in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. he opened up 2 weeks ago, so he's been doing that for the last couple weeks. It's been really hectic for him. He's not in it today. He sprained his wrist, so he's not.
Wow.
So he's out for a hot second.
A Broadway injury.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know.
Is he day to day?
He's questionable to doubtful.
Questionable to doubtful. Yeah. We miss Stan's injury updates.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna miss hearing day to day. Or
yeah, I mean, any coach would be able to say day to day. So we'll see.
Not. It's not the same, John. It's not the same, and you know it.
It's the cadence in which he says it. It's
Exactly.
fantastic.
Colin, how's Thanksgiving for you?
It was good. For the first time in the 20 years that my parents have had children, it was just the 5 of us. My 2 parents, then the 3 brothers, me and my 2 younger brothers. So it was very low key, and it was a lot of fun. It was the first time in a while that everyone was back in the house together. So my parents were very happy, and it was a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Still leftovers to be had for you guys?
I did bring some leftovers back to school.
There you go. I pretty much hate myself for how I feel, just the sheer combination of food I've eaten. So I'm feeling that now. But obviously, the big story surrounding the Temple football program is the coaching search. Mm-hmm. Temple's playing for nothing but pride today. If they win today, they will have a 4-win season for the first time since 2019, which is nothing to be super proud of. But you've got some guys who are playing today. They're playing a North Texas team that is 5-6. They were 5-1 at one point. They've lost 5 in a row, and they've been competitive in all those games. They played Memphis tough. They played Army tough. They played Tulane tough. Temple did not play Tulane tough. They did not play Army tough. So North Texas has bowl eligibility to play for. If they win today, they go 6-6, and they're bowl eligible. Temple's playing for that 4th win. And you've got a roster of guys who are either trying to put plays on tape for the incoming head coach to say, hey, I still deserve a scholarship here, or they're trying to put plays on tape for wherever they want to head to in the portal. But let's talk about this North Texas team. I think Temple can score on them. We know that. UNT's defense stinks, just like Temple's has, especially in the back end. Where they get in a little bit of trouble is going up against this offense. Ryan, Colin, you want to jump in here? In the most simplest of terms, what does Temple need to do? I think this is a game that they could win and should win. I need to see it to believe it. What needs to happen for them to win today?
I would say they need to stop the pass. Chandler Morris, this is the best passing team in the American Athletic Conference. Yeah. But this is also coming against last week where they played the second best passing team in the American Athletic Conference in UTSA. Well. Yeah. And not even that they didn't do well. They didn't do well stopping the run. Right. They gave up 200 yards, over more than 200 yards on the run. And even though they intercepted Omacount twice, but it wasn't really like he was the one beating them. Yeah. So it's really just going to be, yes, what you can do against Morris. If you can't stop Sheffield at receiver, that's great. But you're really going to have to stop this rushing attack, which we all know Temple has not been able to do. And it's really like taking the microscope off of the secondary, which has also really had struggles a lot, especially in this back half of the year.
Yeah. Colin?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to come down to if they can get a stop on defense, if they can string together stops on defense and not only stop the run, not only stop the pass, but also stop that rushing attack. North Texas doesn't utilize the run at a high level, right. like teams they played in the past. But you saw that against UTSA, they entered as the number 2 passing offense in the conference. They were expecting to kind of throw it against that secondary that struggled. And instead, they ran for more than 300 yards against Temple. Yeah. We could see the same against North Texas, but again, Chandler Morris leads the American in a lot of the passing categories. They're the top passing offense in the American. It's going to come down to, can the defense get a stop? The defense that has struggled in recent weeks, especially that secondary, has kind of been brought into the spotlight after they played well in the beginning of the year. It looked like they were kind of a strong point, but the last few weeks they've kind of struggled, and it'll just be a matter of, can they get that stop, and then can they keep up on offense with Evan Simon and maybe without Antoine Littleton, who's I think Everwither said he's probably not going to play. We didn't have the day-to-day that Stan said, but he said probably not going to play. So.
Yeah, and again, Ryan and Colin are going to be down at the link for us, and follow them for updates on Twitter. Where can people find you guys on Twitter?
You can follow me find me at Twitter, Ryan_Mac18.
Colin Schofield 9. And I'll also be tweeting from the TTN Sports account, which is TTN_sports.
Yes. So once they get down the link, they'll get a sense of who's warming up down there. Again, I think we'd all be pretty shocked if Antoine Littleton plays. Was taken off the field, right? High ankle sprain. Would not expect that much of a turnaround for this game. On offense, the pressure on the offensive line. Evan Simon has not had anywhere close to a relatively clean pocket to throw from. They lost Grayson Maines, again, probably not playing today, so they lost him at Tulane. He had been playing pretty well at center. We talked to Everett Withers on Monday, and he said, I don't think it's really been at center. It's been more the tackles. The young tackles have struggled, whether it's Diego Barajas, Melvin Ciani, Kevin Terry did not play last week, but Evan Simon is capable of making plays if they can give him, we're not talking about an Eagles offensive line, that type of clean pocket, but just somewhat of a moderately clean pocket, So more Terez-worthy today. Dante Wright is as good as any receiver in the American. I know it sounds simple to you guys. Again, this isn't a super stout defensive line that they're playing in North Texas, but you think Evan Simon will have time to throw today after not having it last week?
I think the North Texas defensive line is not as talented and as pass rush heavy as the UTSA. So I can see more time for Evan Simon today to throw, which I think will, obviously massively help that offense in terms of keeping up with North Texas. Again, the offense kind of goes with the running attack, but also goes as Evan Simon and Dante Wright go. And if they can get Dante Wright involved, which means Evan Simon has more time to throw, then that'll be huge for the offense kind of staying up to pace with North Texas. And then it also opens up Terez-worthy and maybe more Joe Quest-Smith today without Antoine Littleton. So I do think that Evan Simon could have more time to throw today just because they aren't playing as steep of a pass rush as they were last week.
Yeah, I agree with everything Colin said there, but it's also just because this offense has proved that it can score points.
Right.
They were down 18 points against UTSA last week. They were able to come back and kind of make an 11-point game going into that fourth quarter. It's kind of like they were in striking distance. That first half, that ECU game, they were in it for that entire first half where they scored quickly in that first quarter, in that first half overall. It's just, can that run? It kind of goes. The offense goes with the running attack goes.
Yep.
Yes, as good as Evan Simon has been, once it gets one dimensional, all you really have to do is just stop the pass, and the offense is kind of taken out of the game, and then the defense isn't able to contain them for that long. And what we've seen, especially in this back half of the year, the defense hasn't been able to really contain many offenses that well.
No, guys. Prediction time. UTSA, North Texas. Were they like 11-point favorites today? Again, they've lost 5 in a row, but they've been competitive for whatever that means in that 5-game losing streak. Anybody here? I know none of us earlier in the week on the Scoop predicted a Temple win. Colin and Ryan, do you see a Temple win today, or are you predicting a loss?
No, I see North Texas getting out to a lead early and being able to stay out to that lead. I don't think Temple's going to be able to really fight back into the game. I have North Texas winning 52-17.
Wow, 52-17.
I'm near the same page as Ryan. I don't envision Temple being able to keep up with North Texas for as long. I don't think the secondary and the defense will be able to contain Chandler Morris and DT Sheffield. And I think I have North Texas winning 42-24.
All right, so Colin's got a little bit more of a. Well, you have a high-scoring American Athletic Conference game. Colin has some scoring a little bit more points. So, guys, again, I know you have to get down to the link. Again, follow Colin and Brian today. They're going to be covering the game for OwlScoop and for the Temple News. They'll have injury updates for you, senior day updates. Everett Withers has been certainly a fun press conference over the past couple of weeks. He told everybody that he wants to become the coach at North Myrtle Beach High School and some clams down there. And again, he had some interesting comments on the state of college athletics, NIL, and feels that Temple has some work to do there. So, guys, love you both. Thanks for hopping on today. Have a safe trip down to the link, and catch up later. You guys doing the Temple LaSalle game too, or no? You doing the doubleheader?
I don't think we'll be able to make it in time for the doubleheader.
Yeah.
We're trying to see if we could. I don't think we're going to be able to, sadly.
No. Unless we can send the private OwlScoop car down to get you.
Do we have an escort?
That's in the budget. Since when was that in the budget?
It is not in the budget. We're going to max out every credit card that we have at a hopefully low interest rate, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Uber has a helicopter option. We can do that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Depending on where you are, they have a helicopter option.
That's going to be pretty hefty. All right, so maybe you will see Colin and Ryan later on today if we can Uber copter them to the game. So, all right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Good trip down to the link.
Appreciate it, John.
All right.
Thanks for the debut.
At 11 o'clock, we're going to have Ray Dunne from 97.5 The Fanatic on to talk Temple men's hoops, women's hoops. We can ask him about the Eagles. Ray is you're going to be on the call later today, right? Yeah. So you're going to hear his beautiful velvety voice on the radio later today. Andy Carl from the TUFF Fund, are you ready to hop on here and join us? Yeah, and join us on the live episode of The Scoop. Andy Carl. Can I tell our viewers here that the Cooper and Nolan have joined us? Two of the coolest kids around. What are they watching right now? They look like they're in the recording studio. Wow. What are you drinking there? Andy Carl drinking a mimosa. So again, join us if you have time. Stop by the South Philadelphia Tap Room, 1509 Mifflin Street. Great menu. The bar is open, $3 Kensingers, $3 Walt Whit's, and then at 11, the kitchen opens up. So we're going to squeeze Andy in here in a second, have you slide in here. If you are a Temple fan and you're an engaged Temple fan, you most likely know who Andy Carl is, the executive director of the TUFF Fund. This guy loves Temple sports, to say the least, and is joining us with a mimosa.
Do you know this day in history, Winston Churchill was born?
I did not know that.
I looked it up before I came.
Starting us off with a little fun fact there. Andy, like I said, engaged Temple fans know about the TUFF Fund. For someone who's hearing about it for the first time, tell them what the TUFF Fund Collective is. I know why you started it, because you are passionate about Temple athletics, but tell them how this started and what the TUFF Fund does and why it's important to you.
Yeah, so the TUFF Fund is a 501c3 nonprofit. Closer?
Yeah.
Got it.
Live
Okay.
engineering happening right
Sorry,
here.
this is my first time I think with them. I don't know what to do with my hands or anything. It's a It's a 501c3 nonprofit NIL collective. We utilize student athletes' name, image, and likeness to enhance already existing and organic charitable activities in and around the Philadelphia communities. I view it as a marketable tool for potential and currently existing student athletes at Temple. It builds their brands, keeps them engaged, keeps them retained, and it monetizes their name, image, and likeness in a more organic way than, say, just pay for play. So, I mean, our mission is focused on the charitable aspects of it, but it certainly has a focus on NIL to provide opportunities for the student athletes while they're here.
And tell everybody about the event that you had just a couple days ago with the men's basketball team.
It was actually men's basketball and football.
Okay.
We had Jamal Mashburn Jr., Lynn Greer III, and Jameel Brown, as well as single-digit seniors DJ Woodbury and Latrell Jean up at Temple Hospital to pass out Thanksgiving meals to folks that are going through cancer treatments that, as simply as we're too weak to carry 30-pound bags to their cars. Yeah. And so we utilized their strengths to carry them. And then we also, I had the chance to drive a couple of the student athletes around the North Philadelphia neighborhoods to folks that couldn't get out of their house due to cancer treatments and the effects of that, and be able to deliver Thanksgiving meals to them one Tuesday. And so, it benefits Temple Hospital, right? Mm-hmm. Which is an arm of the university. I think it's a benefit to the student athletes. It's an additional experience that they may not typically get as a student or an athlete at Temple. And then it's also something that, we obviously have the abilities for their name, image, likeness to monetize that. And so I think it's a win-win-win for the university, for the student athletes, and for the community. And so we're going to continue to do that, going forward. We're hoping to have a community event prior to the holidays. And, people ask sometimes like, okay, where's my donations go to? Well, that's a perfect example of what it is. So, we have these charitable initiatives that we're a partner with. And then also, there's a reason why student athletes choose to come to Temple University. Sure. For example, for basketball, it's, a lot of the student athletes that are on the men's basketball team probably wouldn't be here without NIL opportunities that we provided to them.
Absolutely.
And I think we've grown a lot in the last, I would say, year to 2 years. We've probably tenfold increased our NIL expenditures for the men's basketball program. And I think there's going to be a significant jump in football as well, going into the new year with the new coaching staff, with some pledges that we have in place that I think will hold fast. And so we'll be able to utilize the momentum of a new coaching staff and hopefully kind of augment that. And, I think people are quickly realizing that you can have Nick Saban, Bear Bryant, any of these coaches come in and lead a football program, but if you don't have the proper resources in place, and we've heard it over and over and over again from a variety of different people over the last few weeks, that if you don't have the resources in place for any program, especially Division I football, it's very, very, very difficult to succeed.
Where do you want to see the TUFF Fund and Temple get to? Because now it's not just about NIL. Now it's about revenue sharing. And Arthur Johnson, again, we've talked about a bunch of times on the Scoop, admitted at the NIL event almost about a month ago now in media, was candid enough to say he thanked you and he said, hey, I didn't really do enough to throw my arms around NIL when I first got the job here. You've got a new football coach coming in sooner rather than later. You have a men's team and a women's team who have had their ups and downs so far, but they both legitimately have NCAA tournament aspirations. Like you said, especially with the men's team, you've helped get players onto the roster. Where do you want to see Temple get to? I mean, it's unrealistic to shoot for Alabama, but there are examples out there. Is it a Tulane? Is it an SMU? Is it a Cincinnati? Do you, in your eyes, have like aspirant programs when you say Temple could be like this or they could be like that in terms of whether it's additional revenue streams and stuff like that? Our owner, John Longacre, just walked in. Thank you, John. Where do you want to see Temple get to next?
I mean, I don't want to be, especially with, you don't know what other people have and don't have, right? Like, so I don't want to aspire to a certain program or team. I think there's goals that you need to have in terms of the output, right? The success of things. So I don't care how we get there, but if we want to be a championship program, I've heard people say we want to win championships. Okay, well, what does it take to win a championship in the American Athletic Conference? If you win championships in the American Athletic Conference in football and men's and women's basketball, you're going to the NCAA tournament, or you have a shot at being that 12th team in the playoffs, right? So,
and you're bringing in revenue for the school.
And you're bringing in revenue for the school indirectly and directly, whether it's through donations or it's increased enrollment, that type of stuff. And so, going back to what you said, it really isn't as much of a conversation about NIL per se anymore as it is revenue share.
Yeah.
That is, now that universities can really control where their dollars are going in terms of investing back into the programs, you need to.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you need to make it abundantly clear to your constituents that we're just not going to invest, which is fine. And we're going to invest our university resources into something else. But I think that the university does plan on participating in revenue share. And where do I want to see the TUFF Fund? Like, I think NIL will always be an ancillary part of the overall revenue model for student athletes to attract them to come to Temple. I would hope that it's not the sole or large majority of the fiscal earnings that student athletes can achieve while at Temple. I think I hear that it's important for this football program and the men's and women's basketball programs to succeed. And so if you hear that, you would hope that that's not just a hollow idea, but something that the university invests in and makes a priority.
Obviously, again, there's one of the things that you're obviously able to do is to get players on these rosters, and players help win games. We know how important that is. Talk to me about some of the men and women that you've worked with that have really affected you, because again, young student athletes are young. I mean, some of them might be super engaged. For some of them, it might take them a while before they really get it. But again, as you talked about earlier, one of the things that you guys have really tied yourself to is charitable initiatives, really being sincere, like totally sincere about making a difference in the community and not just saying it to get people in. Who are some of the athletes that have really impressed you with the way they've embraced it and really bought in, made tangible differences in people's lives? I know you and I have had a chance to talk about this, and you've come away like legitimately affected by it beyond just the wins and losses.
Yeah, I mean, I think, over the last 2.5 years, we've had a bunch of student athletes that have stepped up and made differences. Quante Berry, obviously, is a perfect example.
Sure.
He was in the transfer portal coming from Providence and had reached out about what are the NIL opportunities. And, we made sure that we had something in place that truly impacted him beyond playing time, right? Like I've had conversations with student athletes and parents on the football team just in the last week or two, and they talked to me about playing time. I said, I can't control that. But what I can control are some of the other things. I can control the experiences off the field, the charitable things, the social benefits, the brand development. And so, with that ability, like Quante and his family really took to, my proposal that I was gonna have them partner with the Lupus Foundation of America. We've done some significant events with Jameel Brown and Zion Stanford and camps for kids in their communities, right? Like it's not just here or there, but like we went to West Philly where Zion Stanford is from and did a camp there. We went, we were in North Philly where Jameel Brown is, and we're hoping to do more and more. We just had several of our Temple field hockey student athletes go and represent us at CHOP for an International Rett Syndrome Day. And so we're getting into a groove now where more and more charitable organizations understand what we are and what we do. And so they know to reach out to us that we could be impactful partners. And then we're also looking to organically create our own events. And it's somewhat difficult to do. I mean, but I'm a one-man show, right?
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
to plan
your
and
three children are here with you today. Hi, bud.
What's up, buddy?
They're adorable. I'm sorry.
And so it's tough to like organically run, create and run events on a fairly frequent basis, but I try as best I can, and I think we'll do more of that. And I'm hoping to have a little bit more support going forward through a variety of different channels. And there have been some folks that have shown interest, and then there's also like the typical 5 or 10 Temple fans that complain about NIL organizations not stepping up and doing stuff. And it's like, I think I heard Kevin say, it's just like the know nothing nobodies that do nothing, know nothing, contribute nothing, that are the loudest fan, members on message boards and Facebook groups and things like that. And you just kind of like throw that in the dumpster where they belong and their thoughts belong, and you just move forward and you do the best you can. And it's funny, like someone criticized the TUFF Fund the other day, and I was literally driving around student athletes and delivering food to people that are, looking for, some substance while they're battling cancer in North Philly. And it just like, it really puts things into perspective. It's like these people truly don't understand the realities of NIL and at Temple specifically. And so super proud of what the TUFF Fund has accomplished, and really excited about the potential for us to be able to do things moving forward.
How much do you think like the event that happened about a month ago at the townhouse in media, just educating fans in that space? You told me it was pretty well attended. Does the university need to do more of those events to just educate? Again, you and I have talked about this for what seems like a million years. This is a pro sports town.
Right.
It was fun when the city got behind Temple in 2015, when they were on College Game Day, playing Notre Dame, conference championship in 2016. But this is always going to be an Eagles first town, and everything else falls in line. But fans still need to be educated about what's going on in college athletics. People only see what's in front of them. Do more events like that help people just help wrap their minds around like, hey, this is where, whether you like it or not, this is where college athletics is headed? And do fans just need to be more educated? They can say, I think
the time has passed on educating fans what NIL is. I think maybe we need to do a better job of educating what we are doing and the position that we are in. Credit to Arthur Johnson. We were talking about planning some events, and he's like, we need to move past the educational. Like, if you don't know what NIL is at this point, like, man, that rock must be heavy that you're living under, right? And so we're now at the point where we need to concentrate on raising real revenue because that's what's impactful. Because if you don't know what NIL is at this point, the propensity for you to want to or have the ability to make an impact in that space is probably not there. And so I think we maybe from an administrative perspective, I mean, you've already seen President Fry talk about NIL and revenue share and things like that. So he's cognizant of that. You just have to hope that there's an understanding of what that investment means to the bottom line of a university. Because, you know, he was at the FAU game where there were a few thousand folks in the stands, right? And so you're standing down on the field as new president of the university and looking around and going, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so you hope that with, I mean, obviously the last week or so with a variety of interviews and response interviews and all that was kind of a mess. And I'm sure there's some people that probably want to take some of that back, but at least there's a conversation now about athletics and how important it is and what the impact could be at the university. And, you know, I've kind of been beating that drum now for a little while, and it's refreshing that you start to see more conversations in the public having taken place. And obviously privately, there's been studies that have come of meetings with board of trustee members on what does it look like to be successful in different modeling at Temple for athletics in 2024 and beyond. And so you hope that they digest that and they make decisions, because I think ultimately that's what we have lacked over the last several years is there's been no guidance, there's been no goals, there's been no pathways, there's been no actionable steps or items. It's very siloed, very half-hearted. You know, I have my goals, but like I wake up in the morning and set them for the TUFF Fund based off of that, where there hasn't really been a significant amount of goal setting and planning from a university-wide perspective with regards to revenue share and NIL and how that's impactful. And I've had great conversations with all of our head coaches on what needs to be there, but it has been kind of partitioned off. And you're hoping now going forward, now that you have a lot of university leadership in place, that you can finally say, okay, we're going to put our foot down here and we're going to push in a direction. Yeah.
Last question for you before we let you go and bring Ray Dunne on here. And I know you get heading out of the game with Cooper and Nolan. Appreciate them being here. They are just, I mean, they're adorable. I love them. Also, two of the most well-behaved kids.
I think they're waiting for the fried peanut butter and jelly. They also were talking about a potential mac and cheese with bacon. So I got to put those orders in soon or they're going to eat my heads off.
Right.
But yeah.
So that might be better than what they're getting down at the link.
We're still debating on, I would like to get down there, but the 30-degree wind chill might not be appropriate for 2 6-year-olds that like to see Hooter in the marching band.
That is a factor. Andy, you and I have talked about this for a while. We've known each other for a long time, and we'll joke around, and Kyle will say this too, like at places like not just Alabama or Penn State, but maybe a Tulane, a Cincinnati, they probably have 1,000 or 2,000 Andy Carls there that are helping to move things forward. And you're moving the TUFF Fund forward on a volunteer basis while you have a full-time job, you have 3 kids. But why tell people why it's important to you and what your Temple story is. Because, again, Temple over the years went from like a good school that was more of a commuter school. You came along when you were a student there when it became a lot more residential, more of a destination. It's always been a good academic institution. But why do you keep doing this, and why do you think you can grow it, and why do you think Temple could be where like an SMU is or a Tulane or Cincinnati?
Right. I guess like my Temple story is I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, outside of Berks County. Grew up, I think I graduated with like 138 kids. My first exposure to Temple was I actually had 2 knee operations that I was told to go down to Temple Hospital as opposed to doing it at the Reading Hospital, just better doctors. And so I got down there and I was just kind of exposed to, a different way of life. And so, I wanted to go to school for sport administration. So I've applied and did the visit and did my undergrad, master's there, worked in athletics, as an intern and during grad school, just kept relationships. I think why I'm so passionate is it's not like I saw a bunch of success in college athletics when I was a student here. No. I think we won 4 total football games while I was an undergrad. and I saw the tail end of John Chaney's tenure,
Yeah.
like Goongate and NITs,
Mhm.
and the beginning of Fran Dunphy's tenure, which was like 12 and 18 the first year. And my first year of grad school, I think they kind of did that run through the A-10 tournament that led to them getting to the NCAA tournament. And so it wasn't like I had the warm and fuzzies about athletics. I mean, I chose Temple for, because I wanted to be in, associated with a school that had big time college athletics. And so I think athletics really can impact a university, unlike most other things.
Mhm.
Enrollment. I mean, we saw it in 2015, 2016. We were at 40,000 enrolled, and no coincidence that we had success in football, or 5 Elite Eights in 13 years, and we go from a commuter school to a kind of a more of a community-based university. And so I recognize what athletics can do for a school. And Temple is a large part of who I am.
Mhm.
And so, I always look at
Your
it
wife
as like,
would agree.
my wife would agree, probably to the detriment of some things, but it's something that I share with my kids, and they enjoy, and so I view it as like I stood on the shoulders of other people that invested into the university when I got there. And so the best that I can do is, the university represents me. So anything that I invest into it is an investment in myself and other people that I'm associated with. And so, they can stand on my shoulders. I look at, when I interact with students and student athletes, it's like I want them to have a better experience than I did, because then they'll go out into the world and represent the Big T. And again, it's an investment, and you hope it's cyclical, and you see how that transpires at other universities, and so you hope it takes place here. And so, knowing that NIL, realizing it 3 and 4 years ago, that NIL and revenue share and what that means, and investing back in your student athletes, how that can impact the whole climate of the university. That's kind of why I've taken this up and kind of pushed it forward, because a lack of realization that, you pour money into recruitment at the Boyer School of Music and the Fox School of Business and the School of Tourism, Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management and the Klein School, but not to do the same thing at an athletics level would be, I would say, detrimental at best.
Mhm.
And so having that ability to have my hand in that a little bit, and you hope that the university at some point kind of takes up that shield and runs with it in a basis that is sustainable, with a long-term and a short-term plan is kind of, if I could be a small part of that. I probably, when I started this, I didn't anticipate being as large of a part of it, interacting with agents and student athletes and coaches, and kind of being a de facto general manager for a bunch of, programs like that. And you're seeing why, GMs are being hired all across the country.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was just, someone texted me today, like Woj, Andrew Luck, Andy Carl, the 3 GMs that are at the forefront of college athletics. And it's just like,
Ray Dunne is smiling in the background.
It's funny, but like, I mean, they're like,
I don't want to put myself on this Mount Rushmore, but I mean,
right.
hey.
Yeah.
Power trio.
Yeah. The power trio. Yeah. I certainly need Luck. And so, but it's, I'd be lying to you if I said I hadn't already been planning with the coaching staff on retention and targets for football transfer portal. And I'd be lying to you if I said I hadn't already been, working towards the 2025, 2026 roster for men's basketball, and having conversations with Coach Rich on how we can get her into a better place with NIL. And so it's a daily and heavy lift. I enjoy it. It's fun. I feel like I have a direct impact on the university. And so, hopefully we get things into a really good place that, that game against UAB at the end of the conference tournament isn't an aberration, but it's an annual thing. And, and Coach Rich winning, you're sharing conference titles and getting football back into a place. I think that football has, in this day and age, there is no rebuilding, right? Like you can change the trajectory of a program in a few days.
Yeah.
Through the transfer portal and what all that entails. And so I think that's the plan. That's the goal.
Yeah, good stuff, Andy. Andy Carl, TUFF Fund. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you to Cooper and Nolan for sitting here patiently and allowing their dad to hop on the show here.
They couldn't care less.
They're angel stuff. They're very well behaved. We're going to bring Ray Dunne up here to say hello, and now he's actually been greeted by a fan. Ray, you ordered some food, but can you still join us here? Didn't you just put in a food order? Do you still think you'll have time? Okay. Andy, thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Go out.
Thank you. Look at this. John Longacre just brought some OwlScoop hats. Come down to the tap room to see us. Wait, Ray. Our surprise guest has shown up. Yes. We're actually going to bring on Ray Dunne in a few minutes. He's been bumped like a young Jerry Seinfeld at Caroline's in New York. So joining us today
to do that
on the Scoop, my friend Todd Zolecki. Not here to talk Temple sports, but Todd is on his way down to do a book signing of your Roy Halladay book, Doc, which came out, what, 4 years ago?
Yeah,
now?
it's been out for a while.
Yeah.
People are still buying it, though, for some reason.
Yeah, I like this. It's nice. Where'd you get this?
I don't know. My wife got this for me. Yeah, I've been wearing it out because I get no new clothes anymore. So
No new clothes? There's no room in the budget in the Zolecki household for new clothes?
There's no budget, so I've been wearing this every
you
day
will wear
since
this
I got it.
$7 T-shirt from Kohl's and you'll like it.
Exactly right. That's exactly
Head
right.
down to Westchester Pike to get your clothes. So Todd Zolecki, MLB.com Phillies beat reporter, does a great podcast called The Phillies Show with Jim Salisbury and Ruben Amaro Jr. So you guys talked on this week's episode about what you're thankful for. I'm very thankful for our friendship. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Every year you have come to speak to my sports writing class at Temple's Klein College, and that's a huge benefit to them. So really appreciate that. So we're going to take a break from talking Temple sports and talk a little Phillies. Tell people who are listening for the first time about the book. You're still doing book signings. You're still really well attended, which is a tribute to you because people are still really engaging with this book. And it wasn't an easy story to tell, but what are the book signings like for you, just interacting with fans?
Oh, that's fun. It's great interacting with the fans. The continued support and interest in the book has been amazing. It's really connected with people for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, number one, it's just a fun baseball book. But, obviously the story of Roy ends tragically, but a lot of people have connected. I've had a lot of current and former big leaguers, minor leaguers say that, that book, they learned some things in that book, the mental side of the game. Like when Roy retired, he wanted to be a mental skills coach and help out players because he had a lot of mental struggles early in his career. And then he met this sports psychologist, Harvey Dorfman, who's kind of famous in the baseball world anyway, and really kind of turned around his entire life and his entire career. So got a lot of that stuff in the book. And then obviously he had, mental health issues, addiction issues. And I actually have heard from people who have suffered from addiction and mental health issues, and saying that the book kind of helped inspire them to kind of keep fighting and try to kick their addiction issues or as best as they can. So it's kind of really connected with a lot of people in a lot of different ways. But again, a lot of Phillies fans just like it because there's a lot of cool Phillies stories in there. A lot of Blue Jays fans like it because there's a lot of cool Blue Jays stories in there as well. So it's been kind of neat.
This was your third book.
Yeah.
Tell people what it's like to dedicate the time and resources to writing a book while you are also covering a Major League Baseball beat that's a demanding beat. Because again, as we know here, we're just talking about this. Temple's had success in football and basketball, obviously not recently in football because they're engaged in a coaching search, but this is a pro sports town through and through. The demands on your time as a Phillies beat reporter are many, so you don't stop covering the beat. And all the while, you are making time to do interviews, and these are in-depth interviews, and you're transcribing interviews, and you go back and saying, "Oh wow, I forgot that this person said this." How do you do it?
Yeah, well, it was a grind, and actually, Temple alum Graham Foley helped me out quite a bit with the book.
Graham Foley shout out on the pod.
Graham Foley shout out with the pod because he did a lot of my transcriptions through you. Actually, you kind of put me in contact with Graham, and Graham actually saved me because I was doing all these long interviews, and then I was going through and transcribing everything. I was like, I will never be able to write this book. So, as well as doing my regular beat duties covering the Phillies. So, I got some help along the way. But yeah, it was a very, very long year, and I was very thrilled to put the book to bed and get it out and see it in hardcover that following I guess it came out. Well, it came out right during the pandemic, like March or April of 2020. So didn't do any book signings back then.
Do you have another one in you?
I think if like the Phillies would win the World Series, I think there would be a book in me. But nothing. I've had a couple other ideas, and I've kicked the tires on some things, but nothing's really come about. So I'm kind of, just because of everything else going on, in my life, it just doing one just to do one doesn't really make a lot of sense for me right now. So I am trying to be really kind of pick and choose my spots, but nothing's popped up yet. Yeah.
Tell us about the Philly show. Obviously, I'm biased. You're a good friend of mine, but I love it. I think. Well, I know Johnny's a Wizlack here, who you might be meeting in person. I don't
think we've ever met in person before.
No, so he's the visiting. He's the visiting.
I'm the visiting clubhouse bat boy.
Yeah, Phillies too.
We've never met.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Johnny also an important part in the Philadelphia baseball.
You could say
scene.
that. Yeah.
He's been called out by Tom McCarthy a couple of times for his dexterity. But tell us about the. I know Johnny listens. A lot of people here listen to the Philly show. It's a really fun listen. It's super educational. Jim Salisbury is super underrated funny. But you've got the two longest tenure guys on the Phillies beat, and then the former general manager who can tell great stories about what it was like to bring Cliff Lee back into the fold, but you learn something about it. Tell us about how the podcast came together and how it's grown in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, so basically, Jim and Ruben were talking about doing a podcast at one point last off season, and then I'm great friends with Jim, and I was talking to him throughout the off season. I said, you and I should do a Phillies podcast. I think that would make a lot of sense. And he's like, I don't know. And I didn't know that he was talking with Ruben, and Jim, being the loyal guy he is, he didn't really want to cause any disturbances. So I saw Ruben in spring training. I said, hey, what about doing a podcast? And basically, we literally just threw it together with like a week before opening day of 2024. I figured out. I see you're streaming on StreamYard right now.
Yeah.
I got on StreamYard a couple days before opening day. I said, let's see if we can get this thing to actually record. I don't even know if it's going to work, if I'm going to press all the right buttons. It did. And
that was our setup this morning.
Yeah,
that's literally what it was like.
Yeah, there was no intro music or nothing. It was just like, hey, we're here, and we talked Phillies, and the response, and then slowly we've gotten more comfortable. We've added some bells and whistles to the production side. We hooked up with the Foul Territory Network in July, and so they've really kicked it up a notch too in terms of like the quality of our social media posts and whatnot. We've had some great guests. We've had Bryce Harper, Chase Utley, Charles Barkley, Pat Burrell, Cole Hamels, Jeff Francoeur, a bunch of people. The new Phillies GM Preston Mattingly's been on, and the response has really been great. I think people like it because, like you said, like Jim and I have a lot of institutional knowledge of the Phillies. Mm-hmm. Ruben was a Phillies bat boy on the 1980 team.
Yeah.
He was a player. He was a scout. He was a coach for the Red Sox and the Mets. He was the general manager, assistant GM and general manager of the Phillies. So he's literally – his grandfather was a professional baseball player. So he's been – literally baseball is in his blood. And I think people like the fact that outrageous, like, the Phillies got to trade Bryce Harper this offseason and do something insane. So I think people really like that about our show. And we try to have a lot of fun as well. And people, it's funny when we hear from people, they go, and we love the baseball talk, but we also love when Jim talks about his garden or making a good cheeseburger or whatever the case may be. We love when Ruben, tells stories about his days as a player or whatever the case may be. Or we love when you and Jim talk about something funny that happened on the beat, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that part's been really cool.
Yeah. Again, Todd Zolecki, MLB.com Phillies beat reporter and author, kind enough to join us now. We've got some people starting to file in. Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Wow, Jeff Neiburg.
It's just filed in. Just gave Todd a little salute. He's going to be joining us in a little bit. Again, great menu here. The kitchen is open now. The bar is open. $3 Walt Whits, $3 Kenzigers. But we got some people following in, some Temple fans. I think everybody wants to know, Todd, what every Phillies offseason is interesting. This one, super interesting because people are talking about the makeup of the team. What do they need to do to get back? And what do you think the first shoe will be to drop here? I know I'm probably the first person ever to ask you that right now.
Well,
I want to ask you the hard-hitting question.
I think we've been talking about this on the show, like what's going on right now, and it feels like there are some free agents that might need to sign to kind of get everything rolling. I think the Phillies, they have some players they could trade and are willing to trade, but the teams that they're maybe talking to are going, well, we want to wait and see where Bregman ends up because we're interested in Alex Bregman, or we want to see if we can get Juan Soto, or we want to see if we can re-sign this player or sign that player. And so I kind of feel like the Phillies can certainly go out and sign a free agent or two, but I think they know that to really kind of shake things up, which is what they've said they kind of want to do or need to do, they need to find those trade partners. But, I think you could see everybody's talked about it. Alec Boehm could be traded. You could see Nick Castellanos traded. Brandon Marsh, Ranger Suarez. And not because the Phillies want to trade those guys, but because the Phillies, they're the most tradable guys, valuable guys. Like you're not going to trade, Taijuan Walker, for instance. He's 2 years, $38 million left, or $36 million left on his contract, and he's didn't even pitch the final month of the season because he was so bad. So, you have to kind of keep those things in mind. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I do think, knowing Dave Dombrowski, I do think they're going to do something significant. And I think if they don't, I think if they just kind of run it back again, I think that would be an off-season failure of sorts.
What is covering an off-season like? We'll give you one last question here because I know you got to get down to Citizens Bank Park again. If you're watching us here, Todd, the book signing starts at noon.
Yeah, correct? Noon to 2. Yeah,
noon to 2 down at Citizens Bank Park.
Citizens Bank Park in the team store.
Yeah, in the team store. Yeah. So again, Doc is an incredible book, as is the rotation that you did with Jim Salisbury. I know you joke and say it didn't sell as well because I remember you saying, like, John, if they don't get to the World Series, people aren't going to be as interested. But it's a really, really, really good book. The reporting, the in-depth stuff that you get about, like, just building that rotation, really good. And then the good, the bad, and the ugly, the first book that you did, all three of them definitely worth buying. So check them out. Todd, what is the off season like? I mean, it's go during the season. In the off season, it's a little bit of shifting. Like when you were talking to my class recently, you talked about like you could be picking up pizza somewhere or like making plans with Ryan and the kids, and then like something breaks. If you're not breaking it, something breaks, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of the off season, to be honest with you. A lot of people say, oh, it must be so exciting. It's like, no, not really, because here's something that happens a lot in the off season is, like, for instance, I've been writing since July. We've been talking on the Philly show since July that the Phillies made a really hard run at Garrett Crochet, right? And I'm sure they're still interested in him. They are still interested in him. But then you'll have another writer in another city or a national writer put out a tweet says, hearing rumors the Phillies might be interested in Garrett Crochet. And then every aggregator in Philadelphia picks it up. It's like Phillies reportedly interested in Garrett Crochet. It's like, yeah, they are. That's been known for months, you know. So that part is a frustrating part of the offseason
because they're creating work for you.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of like people go, oh my God, is this true? It's like, well, yes, it has been true for several months, and we've been reporting it. But then somebody will put it out there as if it's new information. So that part's kind of annoying. There's a lot of like nonsense rumors. Another thing that's I don't like, not to like air my grievances, like it's Festivus. It is the Festivus season.
It is the Festivus season.
But you'll see a tweet or somebody go, hearing rumblings that the Phillies might be interested in Alex Bregman. It's like, oh, really? They might be interested in one of the best players in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But the real news story would be like, hearing reports the Phillies have absolutely no interest in Alex Bregman, or the Phillies have absolutely now that is a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Phillies have no interest in, one of the best closers in Major League Baseball. Well, that would be a story, but the Phillies have interest in every good player. It's just, do they have the resources to get done? Do they have the mindset to get? Do they have the need to get it done? So that part makes it kind of that part makes the off season kind of tedious. Every baseball writer, local beat writer, loves it when the team makes all their moves early, so you can kind of like relax and unwind a little bit in the off season before spring training starts.
Yeah, the story that Jim shared about you brought up the Jim Thome trade this week, and how like Jim was like driving up to Providence, and it's like, oh, thanks for that. And
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly right. That's exactly
Todd,
the
final question for you.
offseason.
How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. My parents actually flew into town
that's awesome.
from Wisconsin, so it was my family, my parents, my mother-in-law were there. Very small crew. It's still chaotic though with our littlest ones, who's like 20 months now.
Yeah.
So, but it was great. It was great. I trust yours was good.
It was good. I hate
Were you
myself.
fall asleep on the couch?
I didn't. I don't think that I ever fell asleep on the couch. I hate myself for how much I've eaten.
Yes. I felt like I was going to barf, literally throw up at one point on Thursday night. I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
Yeah. Felt it this morning on the way here, which is never great. So, but other than that, it was good.
Exactly. Well, have a nice, huge lunch.
Yes.
To go along with your Thanksgiving aftermath.
PB&J sandwiches, and then I'll go up and cover the Temple LaSalle game at 4:00 and eat more press food. And
sounds great.
Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, anything you want to ask Todd? Now that you're sitting here, and
I should be asking him some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I wouldn't, but
I mean, if I could maybe answer basic stuff, but I can't go do it in detail.
No, I know.
Yeah, maybe Todd will write a sidebar on you at some point about how he gets around and the grace with which you use on the field.
You never. I'm always open. I'm always
open book.
I'm always open.
Well, thanks, Mike, for stopping by again. Todd is on his way down now to the team store at Citizens Bank Park to sign copies of his book, Doc, the Life of Roy Halladay. Go there, check it out. It's a terrific book. Todd, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, man.
Mike.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Good
it.
seeing you, dude.
Thanks, bud. We are going to be bringing on. If Ray, do you want to hop on now? Or are we interrupting your lunch? And then we got Jeff Neiburg up next. What a show here. What a time we're having here. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I don't know if you're at the back of the line necessarily. This is our first live show. We are streaming. Yes, we are still in the air. Yeah. So that's okay. It's all part of the pieces of the puzzle here. Yeah. So. Again, we are here live at the South Philadelphia Tap Room, 1509 Mifflin Street, right near the Tascamara stop if you're taking the Broad Street line down. Again, we've got some Temple fans filling in now. It was awesome to have Todd Zolecki on, talk a little bit of Phillies, break up some of the Temple sports talk. Todd is getting tips now on podcasting on the board. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, tell Ryan I said hi. Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer will be coming on in a little bit to talk Big Five hoops, Temple hoops, a little bit of Temple football. He's also on the Eagles beat for the Philadelphia Inquirer. So a lot of cool stuff to talk to Jeff about. And you can see over my right shoulder here that the handsome face of one Raymond Dunne. Now, Ray and Johnny have known each other for
this is like my second
time.
Younger brother right here.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. So Ray, again, you probably not only heard Ray's voice, but you've seen him on 97.5 The Fanatic when you guys are on live with Mike Missinelli and Bill Colarulo. So I know how much those guys love you and respect you. They do not hesitate to throw some jokes your way.
No.
Before we get into the sports talk, were you in good shape to do a show on Thanksgiving? Because Bill was a little worried about the Thanksgiving Eve potential plans of a Ray Dunne. How did that go?
A healthy no comment. I was there. I did the show. It was a fun show. Bill and I had a nice Thanksgiving show. Made it through all 4 hours. Contributed a lot on the air. I will tell you, when I got there at 8:30, I was locked in to make sure we got through 4 hours of radio.
What time did the show start?
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Oh, so you got there at 8:30? That was good.
Yeah, no, I was
That's
fine.
good.
I mean, I
That's
saw
good.
some people I know on Thanksgiving Eve. Got to make the
You were
rounds
out- you were out in
Philadelphia.
Phoenix still?
Out in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Yeah, good time. Bistro on Bridge. I was there again last night. Got to see some more people.
Oh, that's a good. I think I've been there before.
It's a nice place.
Phoenixville, very underrated. I mean, people
Very
around
underrated.
that area know about it, but yeah.
No, I feel like I look at it's just going out in the hometown. It's a nice
area.
place.
Like the fact that they shut down that main road on the weekends and like you can
Oh,
walk
yeah, the
through
summer
there.
thing? Yeah, that's awesome.
That's like the best thing that came from COVID. And that's like the best thing that they've ever done.
Yeah.
Like it really rejuvenated the area.
I mean, no offense. Like they should just keep that road closed at all times.
Honestly, I mean, it's a very busy road though, so I understand why they don't.
I understand why they don't, but it's really no dirt off my. I don't live there. So
exactly.
I recommend keeping it closed as much as I can.
Johnny, we should get Jay in here if we're eventually going to talk some women's hoops here. But why
come on, Jay,
with the men's team, Ray? Because
all right,
you're going to be on the call later on today.
True.
4:00 up at John Glasser Arena, and I think this is a game that, on paper, Temple should win. I think they have the better roster, but as like kind and measured and nice guyish as Fran Dunphy is, I know everybody says nice guy. He's a man, and I'm sure he still has a little bit of pride, thinking like, you guys, they mutually agreed to part ways, but Temple decided to move on from Fran Dunphy. He's coaching LaSalle today. Now they lost 2 out of their last 3 games at the whatever it was, the Battle by the Beach that they were at. So
Boardwalk, Battle of the Boardwalk.
Battle of the Boardwalk, Battle by the Bay. Yeah, down in Florida.
Preseason multi-team event.
Yeah. They were in Cape May for all we know. No.
Yeah.
So
I know Temple you wish you were in Cape May right now.
This is fun.
This is fun. I'm just saying, though. You had your choices.
This is fun. Next Saturday, Big 5 Classic. Do I cover the Big 5 Classic or do I go Cape May Christmas Parade?
Wow, that's a tough choice.
Yeah, tough call.
That's a tough choice. I know where I'll be.
Yeah.
I hope to see you there next weekend.
Yeah.
But I'll be
dressed as Santa, and you're going to be there as an elf. So that's where we'll see each other.
My ears look that big today?
No, not at all. So again, Jay, we're going to talk women's hoops in a second. We'll start with the men's team. This could be, I don't want to say this could be like LaSalle Super Bowl, but they have a lot to play for. Fran Dunphy roaming the sidelines, and Jaleel White playing some pretty good basketball for them. Okay. Left Temple via the transfer portal. I think wanted to come back, and I think he and Adam Fisher had a couple conversations, but and he ends up at LaSalle. He's doing what he should do there. He's staying healthy so far, getting good shots. But this is a Temple team that has one of the best guards in the country, and it's getting some of the best guard play they've seen in years in Jamal Mashburn Jr. What are you expecting from today's game? The early part of the college basketball season is always a little weird. We've seen that with UConn.
Oh, yeah.
We can trot out the cliche of like Big 5 basketball was always interesting, but it is. But would you agree that there's a little bit of a weird thing about this game? Again, on paper, Temple should win, but LaSalle's not going to be a pushover today.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it's good. I think it's going to be crazy in there. Today. I think they're going to have, a pretty solid turnout for today's game. Imagine the new arena going up against Temple, a chance to play in the Big 5 championship on the line there. I think it's going to be an interesting environment for them to walk into. They've only played one true road game at this point. They played a couple neutral games up there at Mohegan Sun, but and they played the neutral game against Monmouth, but they had one tough game on the road so far, and that's really been it for them. So I'm interested to see how they react to that kind of environment. First time for this team to go into that place. And you mentioned it with this LaSalle team. I mean, this is a team that I think can run. And I think if you go stagnant offensively, get slow, start missing shots, let them get out transition, that's the recipe for LaSalle, because I think they've got the size that they can, really fight you on the boards. And if they can get out run transition, Jaleel White, you mentioned, McKeithen, you're looking at who they've got, a kid from Ryder who averaged single-digit points at Ryder.
And now he's averaging like 17 a game.
Points per game.
Yeah, so, which doesn't surprise you because, again, Fran Dunphy more often than not gets the best out of his players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what you're looking at this team right now where, if you look at their schedule, they're 5-2. Who have they beaten so far? They had a couple of games early on where they were just knocking teams out, knocking teams over, a couple of bad losses. But I think it's a solid team. It's a solid team that you go to that arena. If you're not ready to play today, if you're a little rusty, you could be playing from behind early on. And I think that's the recipe for the Explorers. If they're looking the way this goes, if Temple comes out rusty, doesn't look like it's getting going offensively, they could run in transition and get you down double figures early, and then you're kind of trying to ride a hot hand to get yourself back into it.
Yeah. Beyond Jamal Mashburn Jr., who else has impressed you on this roster so far?
I think Drew Dole is probably the easiest answer for me. I mean, I think for everyone right now, just in terms of presence on the boards, he's been that for this team. To do what he's doing at his age, his experience, I think it's a credit to this coaching staff again. In August, they're able to go find someone that's going to play big minutes for them. And I know, he was on their radar, and it helps that they're the ones that get him in the year earlier. But you found it, someone that got to campus in August that is in their starting lineup by November.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal for them. So I think I've been impressed by what he's been able to give them. I think Mark Jackson and I were talking about this off the air. I I think it was the Drexel game that we did together. Jameel Brown, I think, is going to have one of you remember that Zach Hicks game against Delaware State where he went for like
right
30,
he
knocked down like a million threes. I think Jameel Brown has one of those games this season. I just think he gets to his spots really well. I like what he gives them off the bench, the athleticism, the shot, so pure. So he's a contributor that I've really enjoyed watching so far, and I think he has one of those games in him. Hopefully it's today. I'd love to be on the call for the Jameel Brown game. That's one I want to add to the resume.
You mentioned Babatunde Duradola, and again, like the immediate contributions they've got from him, they didn't have him through most of the summer. Again, if you're hearing about him for the first time, or if you're just a casual Temple basketball fan, he was initially part of the 2025 class. Temple got him to reclassify. Big addition, because right now we know how much of an issue rebounding has been for them. And he had 11 or 12?
12
against
12 UMass.
Against UMass. So without him, now they went on to eventually out rebound UMass from the first half. That wasn't the case. LaSalle's not a particularly big team, but they have a former Penn State big man and Lower Merion big man, Demetrius Lilly, who's 6'9", about 270, 280. Not super athletic, but he's rebounded. He's hit double-digit rebounds in a couple games for them. How much of an issue is he for them today?
And I think that's what it's going to be. Do they have the front court? Are they ready to deal with him down low? Again, you mentioned
and Jaleel White rebounds well.
Yeah, and Jaleel White, and I think that's where you could run into problems. If you have another first half where you're not rebounding the basketball like that, if you go 5-minute stretch where you don't get a bucket and it doesn't look like you have what you need offensively, I think that's where you run into trouble. Again, you mentioned it, which is why I don't think I've mentioned it yet. I do think this is a game they should win, and then that they should go in there and win that game. But if we're looking for reasons why it wouldn't happen, I think those would be kind of where you walk down that path.
Yeah. So again, Temple LaSalle, 4 p.m. today.
Listen, you're enjoying the fact that the Temple UMass was on the schedule this season. There's a little nostalgia in you. You enjoyed it. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. I need some food. I need some coffee.
Coffee. Listen, I took your recommendation. I was listening to the pod this week. I know I'm pointing off camera to the people. I'm sorry.
Is that the?
That's the grilled cheese, tomato soup over there combination.
Yeah,
oh yeah, very good.
It was good.
Oh, it was good. It was good. I feel right. I feel charged up.
There you go.
Yes. Let's talk about this Temple women's team. Jason Nieves here is joining us and has been covering the team as well. For both of you guys, I think the most obvious question about the women's team is, it sounds cliche, but why the slow starts? Coaches can talk about it. I think we all think that Diane's a really good coach, good recruiter, love the person she is outside of the program, but slow start after slow start after slow start, and then they'll come back and they race back against Princeton, race back against Richmond, but against really good teams, you obviously can't do that, and you're certainly not going to be able to do it in conference play. We saw what they did last season with a share of the American Athletic Conference Championship. They knew that they could have and should have won the conference tournament and gone to the tournament, but how do you just tangibly get past the slow starts instead of talking about it and doing something different? What has gone into it so far this season?
So I'll take you from the lens of a season ago where I'm already feeling that the non-conference has gone pretty similarly. Like that last year of the non-conference, you end up 6-6 coming out of the non-conference, and there were games in there. I go back to the one against Pacific that they end up losing late game execution that wasn't quite there, and some of those games they lost. You're like, if you had only just done this for 40 minutes, if you've been able to do this for 30 minutes, what could your record been? Where would you have been? And I think right now you just kind of feel that in non-conference, except this year's schedule is more difficult in the non-conference than a season ago. Yeah. At least from my vantage point with this team right now, and I think part of that Big Five Classic happening, some of these games you're able to fit in your schedule. You're now have a chance to play a Princeton team that's run the Ivy League for the last 7 years. You have a chance, and I think there was certainly a growth in program you saw from the first game of Diane Richardson's tenure at Temple was at Princeton, and to where they were able to play Princeton to the wire at the end there. But you've seen against Richmond, 29 wins a season ago, expected to compete again at the top of the A10 against Princeton, a team that's even losing their best players, probably going to compete to win the Ivy League. Yeah. You can't have those slow starts and expect to be able to totally finish the job. You were there, you got some late game execution that the shots didn't fall, that you felt encouraged that, maybe you could have stole that one. But the first half, to go back to your original point, I think it's players just got to execute a little bit more. I think that there's some of these, it's a combination of not necessarily getting the shots you're looking for and some of those shots not falling. And I know that's kind of the double-edged sword, and it's kind of a cop out of both answers there. But I think there's certainly some execution early on. You want to see them get into that offense a little bit more, because I think when they buy into what they're trying to do and, take the looks that are there for them in that second half, you start to see, hey, yeah, this team can score. This team can, generate offense. And I think that's right now what I'm looking for when I get those first halves, because I'll be honest with you, the Drexel first half, I was on the broadcast, like, you could have handed me the script of the VCU game, and it was the same. It was this. I was watching the same game, and it ended up being the same thing. They scored 22 points in both those first halves. They had 10 turnovers, I think, against Drexel in the first half, 11 turnovers against VCU in the first half. They turned up the defense in the second half, which turned up. I mean, both those games, I think they allowed 27 points in the first half, so they were still really good defensively. But dialed up the defense. The offense came along. They started knocking down shots. They got a little bit more comfortable, started playing a little bit more loose. The pressure, they were able to generate some turnovers, get some easy offense. But in both cases, they end up winning the game by controlling the second half. Just look for that to happen even the second quarter. You know?
Jay, for you, when you look at Tiara East, are you seeing teams throw more defensive attention her way? Is she missing some open looks? Is she just... is this a case of, like, again, like there are some new players in the mix, some freshmen coming in? What do you make of her performance so far? Is it a little bit of everything that's had her, I guess, inconsistent at best?
I wouldn't say it's sort of kind of just I think it's kind of lowered down to one simple issue, and I think it's just the aggressiveness early. And I think if she's aggressive early, it opens so much of the offense up, because you can have more lanes for shooters, and she can distribute out. She's shown that she can do that. But I think that aggression doesn't, like, it's something that she doesn't really step into until the fourth quarter. They're already down, and it's like, okay, it's time to turn it up now, which obviously it helps when they need it, but it would be so much more beneficial if she can just get into things early. And I don't know what has to happen for that to actively kind of take place, but I think it's just sort of kind of just a simple mindset thing of just, I need to be more aggressive in the early half, drawing more fouls, at least getting to the line and scoring points, because it puts pressure on you. But definitely there is more pressure on her when it's a season without Leah Nelson. It's kind of her first real season as a full-time just scorer and leader on this team. But I think it's just aggression and aggression in the first half.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look numbers wise last season, I think she missed that Tulsa game that really started that run, where they ended up winning by 10 on the road at Tulsa, where Tulsa hadn't lost all season.
Yeah.
I think it ended up being the only home loss for Tulsa that year. She didn't play in that game, and then she comes back, and like over the last 10, 15 games, she averages close to 18 points per game. You see, like, when she asserts herself offensively, just how this team goes. And I know that she knows that. I think might have been in Georgetown. They were talking about, just talk about the conference and all these things. And I was like, yeah, that's my conference player of the year right there. Like, I truly believe that she could be this year's conference player of the year in the American, and that she has, that much ability, and she knows, I think, what she has to do. I think she's been really good. Those games where you come back, you see it, that like this team is going to be carried by her, and she's going to be able to do everything. And that's not discredit to anyone else on that team, but they know what they have in her, and they've continued to unlock more and more in her. So I think that once they start to figure out how all the pieces work together, I think that first half is probably going to be more solved. And part of it will be, the scoring from her in the first half will be higher. But I think it's just a matter of everyone kind of figuring out the cohesive part of working together and working around her.
Yeah, for all three of you, give me a player who's impressed you, or maybe not just impressed, but maybe surprised you, whether it's one of the freshmen, obviously maybe one of the front court transfers.
Surprised? I think surprised people that have been just like tapped in. Savannah Curry, everyone being like,
right.
Wow, like look what they have here. I mean, you think about someone that comes from a West Town, like from the West Town school. That's a school that you're ready to play at the next level. You're ready to get going. And I thought early on, just looking at the team, seeing, before the season, this is someone that's going to be a contributor. And I think down at Georgetown, scoring those 12 points, I think I see someone that is going to be a really valuable piece for this team that really could shoot the basketball. I've always joked I want to go to the T-Mac school of three-point shooting. Well, I'll graduate T-Mac school of three-point shooting and also go to Savannah Curry. Like I'll pick up another degree there, because I think having the two of them, their ability to shoot the ball, one come off, one come on, is huge for this team. So Savannah Curry, I won't steal more answers because I've been impressed with a number of people, but I think Savannah Curry, for me, if we're talking freshman, really, really impressive so far.
Yeah, Jay, what about you?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned Savannah Curry, and she's been explosive, and I love that she's starting to get more comfortable and more aggressive. But I think for me, it's definitely Anissa Rivera. Like not to say that I knew much about her coming from Towson, especially taking a year off. You don't know what that production is going to be like for someone like that. But for her to kind of step in and instantly be a dominant force off the bench for them, like at least on the rebounding side, I think is the most important. But this team as a whole has been at its best when they are playing strong and tough defense. And she's a big part of that, and being able to force a turnover and just be aggressive on the defensive end. And at least there's so many opportunities on the offensive end, and it kind of kickstarts a lot. When she's on the court, it's an infectious energy that I think just a lot of the team needs a lot of times. And especially when I talked to her before the season, and her and Coach Miles, their relationship she said it's great, and that they're constantly like back and forth with each other. And that type of energy like has kind of made, Coach Richardson's teams. And I love that that's a big part of this team. And I think she's the main reason for it for me.
Yeah.
Two things. Could I jump in real quick on the Anissa Rivera conversation? One, down at Georgetown, Kelsey Ransom was having the game she was having. I think she scored 28 points in that game. At some point in that game, Anissa Rivera looked over at the bench, just put up the one. And immediately she went and started covering Kelsey Ransom. That's the type of mentality that Rivera brings, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help this team. I'm going to try and take the best player, someone that's going to be first team all Big East by the end of the season. So I love when you mentioned the energy certainly are there for her. And I think as she becomes more of a focal point of team scouts, where they're like, all right, we have to stop her scoring, you're going to see just how good of a distributor she is with the basketball. And I think that's also going to open up some of these shooters, because if they start attacking her, pressuring her at the elbow, you start to cheat in, her ability to dump that out, I think is going to lead to opening up space for Gary, for Curry, for some of those three-point shooters. So I think we've seen the rebounding, we've seen the scoring. I think the distribution is going to be there soon as well.
You guys kind of stole my main two surprises.
How many times has Ray cut you off in your life?
It's a good question. I don't know if he's cut me off. I
never. I'm just trying to.
I mean, I'm sure there's been points where
I'm
sure there's been points when maybe not cut me off, but I'm sure we're playing like basketball out in the driveway.
I got to.
Now wait a second. We're talking about people who would cut him off in this dynamic. He's not here to defend himself, but I would definitely take my brother over me for a number of times cutting him off.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's just because I've spent more time with your brother.
Don't let him off the hook like that. He's watching at home. You know what you've done.
I wouldn't say I'm cut off by either of you. I think it's more, I'm not as vocal at the times when it comes to giving my opinion. So I just take a step back. I think it's more my own doing than the both of you cutting me off.
We just have fun with this.
Oh, no, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
So, wait, were you about to make a basketball point and then I cut you off, which is ironic? So
no, I was going to say this is your safe space to give your opinion. I was still waiting for his surprise.
I can remember by now, even though it was a couple minutes ago, if you had a basketball point to make. Johnny, someone who's impressed you that we haven't maybe touched on yet.
Sorry, I inhaled.
He's all choked up. Who's surprised?
I apologize.
It's so great to watch this.
I apologize. That was brutal. But the two of you kind of stole my two main surprises. I think now I'm between Amaya Oliver and Adina Webster. I mean, Amaya coming in, you knew that she was going to be a focal point. You knew that she was going to have an impact. Adina Webster hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. She hasn't been in the game that much, but I think when she's been on the court, the intensity that you mentioned, the intensity of Anissa Rivera, Adina Webster's defense is like, it reminds me so much of like kind of how Aaliyah Nelson was a little bit, like in your face, like clapping, energy. Like
Kayla's kind of like that too.
Kayla's like that too. Like I feel like that's kind of like, I love that intensity. That kind of surprised me a little bit, like for her being a freshman too, like coming in and kind of being like that. But I think Amaya Oliver is going to be someone that'll have more of a focal point and more of have more of an impact directly now, especially for that front court. Someone like Julissa Molina that is kind of struggling. I think Amaya Oliver and Anissa Rivera are going to be huge focal points. So I'd say Amaya Oliver.
When you talked about Adina there and we brought up Kayla has given you a little bit of that reminder of Aaliyah with the speed to be able to be the guard off the dribble. And then her knocking down threes in that game against Princeton. Another dynamic of what this offense could be. She's a blur to watch out there on the floor. She's so quick.
Absolutely.
Can this team, and this is probably an unfair question to ask on November 30th, but you've said like there are some similar storylines there, the slow starts. You say, oh, this was the script of the Drexel game. Knowing that there are some freshmen who you guys have touched on who are working their way into the mix, transfers are working their way into the mix, everybody still practice is one thing. They're still getting to know each other on the court in the season. Can they get back to where they were before, where they are entering the conference tournament as a team that you think could or maybe even should win the conference tournament?
Yeah.
Again, we're not in conference play yet. Dynamic changes, but do they have the talent and the pieces and the mindset to get back to where they were before last
I think so. I really do, and I understand. You know, look at this guy in a Temple basketball quartership saying that they could do it. Like, what does he know? I really do think they do. I think I look at the pieces of what made them successful last year, and we talk about some of the similar storylines. You know, if they grow into the team similar to the way they did a year ago, I think that's where they could be. And again, I give the comparison to last year. This is much tougher conference schedule, like non-conference schedule. You know, you start against Richmond, a team that won 29 games a year ago, is going to be at the top of the A10 again. You know, you get the winner of Delaware, you get the winner of VCU, but that VCU game started a 4-game stretch where they're playing 4 teams that want to combine 93 and 38. And Drexel was in the tournament winning the CAA. Princeton was in the tournament winning the Ivy. Georgetown went to the Big East championship last year, and if you're in the Big East, you go to the Big East championship, that you might as well have won the Big East because UConn's going to win. So they played a really, really tough stretch here where they're now 3-3 going into a game against LaSalle that, you know, you win it, you get a chance to play for the Big 5 championship. But the big picture of this, I think they have similar pieces. I think they have more versatility in the front court than they did a year ago. Speaking to Anissa Rivera, speaking to what they project Jaleesa Molina to grow into, speaking to Amaya Oliver, who I don't think we've seen the full picture of what she'll be yet. And then Jarice is a year older, and just that much better. And some of the storylines at the end of last year was East was averaging 18 a game for the last 10 games of the season. Tariana Gary for the last 14 games of the season shot 50% from 3.
Yeah.
And you remember the beginning of last season, she was dealing with a little bit of a hand. It was like, is the shooting still there? Yeah, with that form, the shooting's still there. So I think, there's going to be growth with this team, with the young players, with getting this front court figured out. But I think sitting 3-3, playing really intense games with Richmond and Princeton throughout this schedule, I think you have to feel like this team has a chance to be back where it was a year ago.
Yeah, Jay, John, you guys have the same mindset, or you need to see a little bit more before you can get to where Ray is?
Yeah, I would say that I think I'm completely with Ray in that. I think they are right where they kind of need to be, and I think it's just more so just continuing to find what clicks and what works, and solidifying a lot of just the roster, your rotations, and a lot of just what you're going to do moving forward, because they've shown that when they're mostly in the second halves, when they're playing at a high level, they're playing defense. And I think for me, it's just the energy that they play with. I think that goes a long way, a lot longer than anything. There's going to be offensive struggles, and we've seen that they've struggled to shoot the ball. And I think in the last 3 games, they haven't shot above 40%. So it's when they have these games, the defense really kind of gets them through. And I think so many times that is going to be the staple for this team this season. And I think I'd much rather bet on a team that can defensively be defensively sound, and I think that goes a lot longer. And I just once again I think compared to last season, I think this team has a lot more depth, especially at the guard position. And I think that's something where we saw where Aaliyah Nelson kind of started to decline towards the end of last season, and Tristan Taylor stepped up and instantly kind of filled that role. And you have players like Kayla Turner off the bench and Anissa Rivera, who you can continue to grow, and even all the freshmen. You mentioned Savannah Kerr, of course, and I think Felicia Jacobs has also played well in the limited amount of role that she's kind of starting to get more and more and start to expand her role in the roster too. So I think there's a lot more pieces that I'd be a lot more confident in saying that, okay, they can run it back and head into the American Athletic Conference Championship or the tournament as a whole with some confidence and some ability to make it further.
I mean, I'm with both of these guys here. I think the talent is there, and I think, we've seen what Tiara East can do. She's better than this. She's going to be better than this. We know that for a fact. She's going to turn it on. She's going to be a top player in this conference. Like Ray mentioned, he thinks that she's going to be his conference player of the year. She has all the talent in the world to do that. And I think you're going to see that turn around at some point. You're going to see Tariana Gary start to shoot in the higher percentages from 3-point range. We know she can do it. We've seen that she can do it. And then, I think it comes, I know I've said this before, but when you have all these new additions to a roster like this, so much turnover, it takes a couple games to click. You're going up against higher competition than you've played against in the past and your non-conference slate. These adversities now are going to help when it comes into conference play. You're going to see things start to click for this team. You're going to see things start to come together. And while it might be frustrating now watching them go through these struggles where it's every time we're talking about one quarter where it's if you could have just played a little bit better in that second quarter, or, you could have played a little bit better coming out of halftime. That stuff's going to slowly go away as the team plays more together. and you fight through these adversities. TR East starts to play better. Terry Gary starts to play better. Amaya Oliver gets more involved, and all those things progress, like they're going to, that this stuff is going to happen. We know how Coach Rich coaches, and we saw how it happened last year. They're going to play better, and they're going to get to that point that we said and thought they were going to next year.
And it's interesting when you say like what you want to see out of East. She's averaging what, like 16?
Exactly.
Like the expectation has been so raised for this program, for this team, because of what happened a season ago. And
yes,
justifiably so, and been raised so much for her because she is the focal point of this team right now. But that just shows you the level of player that she is, because the expectation is raised.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, she's averaging 16 to start the season, but you're talking about, where's the part where this team can improve? And I think that's a testament to her.
A reminder again, we are coming to you live from the South Philadelphia Tap Room, 1509 Mifflin Streets, right near Broad and Mifflin, South Philly. Just a short subway ride away from the Temple North Texas game down at the Link, which is set to kick off in 9 minutes. So we have a little bit more than an hour left here. If you stop by and see us, got some OwlScoop hats here for you. Do you have your OwlScoop hat yet?
I don't have an OwlScoop
hat. There you go. Now you have one.
I'm announcing my
I don't have one.
I would love
need
your OwlScoop hats here. So again, our owner John Longacre, who owns South Philadelphia Tap Room, American Sardine Bar, 2nd District Brewing, all sorts of cool stuff here. Grateful for his support here. Again, $3 Kensingers and Walt Wits. The food is tremendous.
Grilled cheese, fantastic.
Yes, I'm looking forward to eating at some point soon something that is not turkey. But one of the cool common threads with all of you guys is Johnny, Jay, and Ray. You guys are all products of Klein College at Temple, all heavily involved with WHIP. Johnny's programming director. Jay is our podcasting director, and involved at the Temple News as well. And Johnny and Jay are going on to great careers eventually in the professional media world. Ray, you're there now. Take us inside what it's like being Mike Missinelli's producer. Mike, obviously, like a polarizing figure in the Philadelphia sports talk radio landscape, but he's been around for a long time, and you are working for him. It's evident, and I don't say this just to like. I mean, I love you. I've known you for a long time, but like, it is
I got
evident.
$10 I can pass along. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah.
Yes, appreciate that. But no, it's evident how much he and Bill Colarulo love you and respect you. What's it like working on that show now? Because you are heard by millions of people. You are viewed by millions of people.
I forget. I'm never ready for the YouTube camera. You know?
Yeah.
I get dressed in the morning. I forget that I'm on camera.
Yeah, a little bit of a smaller audience here today in our first live show that we're ever doing. But take us through what a day is like, because it looks like fun, but
it is. I mean, it is a lot of fun. Like, I think the joy of the show is one. You said it. Mike's been around a very long time. There's a reason for that. He's just immensely talented in the way that he can take a show, take a topic, take like a sentence that he hears and spin it into content, spin something he sees online into content that takes the show in a whole different direction for another hour. And I think I hope it comes across that we have a good time, because we do have a really good time doing the show. We have a lot of fun. Right now, I think it's especially, a good time with Birds being as good as they are. You can also have the dichotomy there of the 76ers and everything going on there. So it allows for, fun banter. You have a really engaged listener base, a lot of people who have listened to Mike for years that, love to engage with him, love to engage with the show. And, they're getting to know Bill and I. So that's a fun process of like, oh, who are these two clowns that they put with our guy, Mike? And I think it's been, really good. I've really enjoyed it. Just, the opportunity to learn while on the job with, what, Mike likes to do. And obviously what has made Mike so successful in his career. I think that's all been big for me. I've enjoyed I guess we're closing in on 100 shows. We're getting close. So that's been fun. We started in August. We're still kicking. So it's good.
What goes into, all three of you are obviously very familiar with show prep. You're doing it on a really big scale. What goes into preparing for that show every day?
Mike loves his stories. Like, loves whether it be, something from the Inquirer, something from ESPN, something from the Athletic, because, he loves to see what's been written, what's been said. And again, I'd say it's amazing because he can find like one graph in the story that says something that he's like, wait a second, what is with this? And he can jump that into an entire hour, entire show of content. So a lot of prepping stories, looking at angles. I spend way too much time online, just like trying to comb through what the fan base is talking about, where the opinions are at the fan base, and taking those and trying to spin them. Okay, no, Mike, some people are saying this. Is this like something that you want to jump into? Or, you know, this is something that's been written about the team and you want to jump into this. So, you know, I produce a sheet every night or very early morning where I send it over with stories, potential storylines, some off the wall stuff that, like, you know, we can get into. And all of a sudden we're talking about, you know, dating apps, or talking about, you know, there's always, listen, man, another Hardy no comment on that. I don't need my life put out there the way it is sometimes on the midday show, but
it's the cross you bear, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, like those types of things, and just trying to make sure that he's in a position where, you know, he finds that jumping off point where he's like, yeah, this is where we're going to. And some days he comes in and he's like, all right, you know, we're ripping this today, or I'm going. He comes in like just ready to go with, this is exactly what I felt very strongly about something said yesterday. I felt very strongly something that, and then that leads us off, and, you know, we go every which direction. It's a lot of fun.
Is the chemistry fun because all three of you guys are very seamlessly able to weave in and out of sports and pop culture? And it's like, I listened to Mike growing up. He's a big music guy, big movie guy.
Yeah, which
He's
movie
got
thing
his
has been
other
difficult for
podcasts.
me because I'm not.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm texting you stuff on the side.
Yeah, well,
this
also
is
General
the
Knowledge
answer.
Wednesday always has a movie category, which is always, it's a guaranteed wrong answer for me. I think that's been honestly for my role within the show. General Knowledge Wednesday has been one of the biggest things in revealing who I am to the audience.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this dude just, I can be really, like, there are some questions like, how in the world did I pull that out? Like, wow, he must be really smart. And there's questions like, yeah, this dude has been under a rock for 24 years. I don't know how he doesn't know that.
Are you, because when you were working with Anthony Gargano, he would give you a movie to watch.
Yeah.
You would watch it and come back with notes.
Right. We have not yet gone back to that. I have a strong feeling that post football season, there's a chance that we will end up doing Ray's movie reviews one more time.
Are you spending less time watching movies because you are dating more? A reminder that we are live. You can't walk any of this back.
Tread carefully.
Listen, man. I live in the city. I enjoy living in the city. It is
as you should.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
24.
Yeah,
Yeah,
24
so
going on 42.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a cup of coffee at night now.
Oh.
So I really have gotten old.
Do you have a robe and slippers? And
I do have slippers. No robe. You
have slippers? What kind of slippers do you have?
Just a little like this color. Just
There you
like, yeah, a little brown colored slippers.
Yeah.
Nice little fuzzy on the inside.
Yeah.
We walk around. We don't really turn on the heat at the apartment.
Really?
We're cost cutting maneuvers.
What's the thermostat set at?
When I got in there today, probably like 67.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's not bad. That's,
Right. Well, yeah, because
that's
we've had
healthy,
a
especially
regular,
for sleeping.
a warmish, fall.
Not now, man. It is.
Well, yeah, it's gonna.
frosty.
This week it'll drop to like 60 something in the apartment. I'm sure, like
Yeah.
61 or 62. But
Yeah.
cost cutting maneuvers.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit, as we were able to do with Todd Zolecki again. Todd Zolecki of MLB.com. It was now down at the
That was great to see Todd. That was
Yeah.
a surprise to me.
Pro Store, Pro Shop,
New Era Team.
New
Store.
Era
Yeah,
Team
New
Store.
Era Team Store.
Jesus. I can only get something right today. So Todd is down there
That
signing
money.
copies of
Anywhere
Doc,
on money.
wonderful
time.
book on Roy Halladay. We got Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer coming up. We blended in some pro sports talk. Let's talk about these Philadelphia Eagles for a little bit, because you get all of it. Have they, obviously, you grew up in this area. You and Johnny grew up together, so you've grown up in the Philadelphia area your whole life. Jay, you've grown up around here too. You know what it's like, the Eagles are under a microscope all the time. And Nick Sirianni's press conferences are always under a microscope. But obviously,
He's matured.
he's
The dude's an adult now.
Yeah. But obviously, tomorrow is a huge game against the Baltimore Ravens. You've got the two guys that are continually being mentioned as like MVP candidates. Should an MVP award go to a running back like Saquon Barkley, or should it go to someone like Lamar Jackson, who's also playing well? What are you expecting for tomorrow?
This is very unpopular. You're gonna make me wrong off the jump here.
You're
I'm
feeling-
expecting
feeling
to
a
lose.
loss.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling a loss.
I could
am.
sense that. I could tell when you walked right in.
That was it.
And
I
before
walked
we
in with
even
like a
got
little
into-
Eagles loss energy to me.
Yeah.
That was what I had.
As you
It was
walked
like,
past some of the Temple fans here sitting at the tap room, you walked in, and the first thing I thought of was not Temple women's basketball or Temple hoops. I thought this guy's going to tell me the Eagles are going to lose tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you tuned into the Bird special we had for 3 hours yesterday, and I appreciate you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I appreciate you listening, John.
I did not.
I know
listen to
you
the
had
three,
it.
I didn't listen to 3 hours of it. I was helping my mom put up Christmas lights, but I didn't.
But you
hear
listened all
3
4 hours on Thanksgiving, so I appreciate you for that too. 7 hours of listening for me over the last 2 days.
And now he's listening to you here right now.
That's
Yeah,
this guy.
John can't get enough of you.
Yeah.
This is the support we get here. This is the support we get.
Andy
No, it's-
Carr of the TUFF Fund is staring at me awkwardly off in the distance here. He's still here. Yes, waiting for Cooper and Nolan to get out of the bathroom. So, sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling great about tomorrow. I think it's just Lamar Jackson factor and what that offense has been so far for the Ravens this season. I'm very curious to see whether or not against the Ravens specifically, you can go a first half where you score 6 points, score 10 points, look, out of sync, out of rhythm, and really not execute. Because I think that's been the biggest problem. Missed field goals against the Commanders, the Rams, you end up with a penalty that sets you back. Like some of these, misses early on haven't come back to haunt you because they won't in the NFC. The only team in the NFC where I think that comes back to haunt you is the Lions.
Yeah.
Point blank. It's a weak conference. It's just why, the bar is set at the NFC Championship game at this point of like where this team needs to go. But I get concerned about how that can play against the Ravens, who can beat you in so many different ways.
Yeah. What's been the biggest pleasant surprise for you? Is it the play of someone like Zach Vaughn? Is it the play of or just how seamlessly Quingon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have transitioned into NFL life, or is it
that whole
something else?
if we could big picture that defense?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a defense built on hope this offseason. That's really what it was. I mean, big Star Wars nerd I likened it to, rebellions are built on hope. This defense was built on hope.
I've only seen Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, so
yeah, it's all
I
right.
have a feeling
It's fine.
you were referencing one of the other movies.
Yeah,
right?
someone got the rebellions are built on hope thing, but
Yeah.
I did not.
This defense was built on hope. Okay.
Yes.
This defense was built on the idea that you were going to take a guy who played edge in New Orleans, who Vic Fangio saw the way he moved as a linebacker and was like, yeah, that's an off-ball linebacker. And I mocked it all summer. I'm an idiot. That's on me. I'm a moron with the microphone. What can you say? Zach Vaughn's been a revelation for this team. Nakobe Dean had been written off. Guy can't stay healthy. Won't be productive. And ultimately, he's turned into a very solid off-ball linebacker. They have good linebacker play. That's a beautiful thing. I still think the edge rusher thing is a little, especially now without Brandon Graham, I'm a little sketchy on where they are. But the secondary, all right, one of these two rookies work out, you're probably in the solid. Well, both of them did. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me looking at the revelation of this offseason. Man, Vic Fangio, you're a hell of a guy. Welcome anytime, wherever I am. Big fan of the guy.
So Ray, what does today look like? I'll see you up at LaSalle. Tell me about just when you head up there, prepping for the show and prepping for the broadcast. And are you doing the women's game tomorrow too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a weekend up there. I was looking into lodging up at LaSalle, just to keep myself up on the campus for the entire
commute
weekend.
down to your place in Northern Liberties.
From Northern Liberties to LaSalle, it's difficult. This big
you
weekend
can't be
on the road.
expected to be on.
What if you hit traffic?
Exactly.
Your drive goes up
Do you have
5
any-
minutes
Do you
and
have
it
any
takes forever.
Airbnb recommendations for Ray up at LaSalle, or should we ask our good friend Andrew Albert, who might be watching or listening here? Yeah,
that's fine.
Hopefully he's got more when we bring him on. I'm sure he will.
Yeah,
but he doesn't. He's just here for the food.
So, so today, we'll get done here. I'm gonna finish that beautiful grilled cheese over there. That's just eyeing me up right now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the first half and a half, like 1.5 slices of it was really good. So I'm good.
I should
glad.
have paced out the show better. It's the first time we're doing a live show. I should have let you eat first.
Look at me. Does it look like I don't finish a lot of grilled cheeses anyway?
I probably will later on.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say about John?
I'm not saying anything about John.
you
I'm
just
just saying
fat
I
shame
didn't.
me.
I'm saying no, that could be skinny shaming me.
You guys don't have the metabolism of a 48-year-old, so I have to work harder to keep this. You know what I mean?
Look great, John.
Whatever this is.
Look great, John.
Yeah. Anyway,
don't talk yourself down here.
Yeah.
Anyway, the rest of the day for me. You see how the Mike Misselli show gets off the rails because I'm not one that can keep
rein it back
center focus. I'm the one that's supposed to rein it back,
Yeah,
and I have no ability to.
Yeah.
So after this, I'm gonna go home. Probably throw on a little. I'm sorry I didn't dress with the collar and tie for you, but probably throw that on when I get home.
I'm wearing my standard fall quarter zip.
Yeah, you look
so,
great in the Q-zip. I'm a Q-zip guy myself.
Yeah.
Especially if they keep giving some.
Yeah.
But I head up there. Probably get there around 2ish. I'm producing the beginning of the game as like the pregame and the beginning of the game as well, because our guy Troy's going to be up at football, so we got to get Troy down to come produce at some point. So I'll get up there, get prepped. I know Fran shot me a text a couple weeks ago, just checking in, seeing how things doing. Nice guy, Fran. So I want to make sure I see him before the game, ask him a little bit about his team, and then is probably lock in for some last second prep at 2:00. But I was able to get some more of the sheet done while I was sitting over there, getting ready to come on the air, listen to you guys, listen to the podcast this morning for some the getting the pulse of the way everyone's feeling about things going on with this team, and then call the game, get done with the game, get home. Next thing you know, right into women's prep, and then I think tomorrow I'll wake up, go shoot around, get pregame interviews done, and then it's off to that game, and then Eagles post game tomorrow. So nice full weekend.
Wow. Did you get to spend some time with your family Thanksgiving?
I did. It was nice. It was good. We worked 10 to 2, we did the show, and then got to leave, go pretty much right to dinner. My family.
Were you guys home or at the shore?
Home. Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't go to the shore. I think I might have held back the plans to go to the shore. So for that, I apologize. But got to go have dinner with them. I stayed a couple nights back in the old Banco area, and
we're still due to hang out at the shore. Remember when you and Zach and I were supposed to hang out at the shore? And
I do remember that.
You guys partied too hard at the Roman Catholic thing.
Let's be clear. If there was one person,
we were supposed to go to breakfast at Turtle Gut, and I don't want to say you guys stood me up, but
oh wow,
it was not. Listen,
right,
John, and this is just an admission of my own ways. I can have a good time. You're well aware of that. I will tell you that the reason that we did not show up in the Turtle Gut was not my fault.
It was Zach.
I'm not saying it's his fault. You said it was his fault. I'm just saying it wasn't my fault.
Is he press box spotting right now as we speak?
I think so.
In the game,
he
should. Give Zach the Muse a little shout out.
Yeah, I'll give him a shout out. I didn't see him today. I went into the apartment. He was nowhere to be found.
Oh yeah, you guys are roommates. Gosh,
yeah,
all sorts of connections here.
Yeah.
Ray Dunne, love you. Thank you for stopping
Thank you.
by.
Love you too.
Appreciate it. We are at the show's flying by 12:07 p.m. Jeff Neiburg from the Philadelphia Inquirer has been waiting patiently here as he sips on a water. Could you be so kind as to pass me a water too, please? I'm just parched at this point. Thank you so much. Oh, now he's holding it. Just, are you ready to hop on? Yeah. Ray Dunne doing both games this weekend, Temple men, Temple women. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeff Neiburg is going to help carry us into the final hour of the live show here. Again, we are at the South Philadelphia Tap Room, 1509 Mifflin Street, right near the corner of Broad and Mifflin. Again, incredible drink and food menu down here. So whether you are maybe heading to the Temple game late or whether you're looking for a place to hang out before you go to the Temple LaSalle game, come by, stop by to say hello. Got some OwlScoop.com hats here. Jeff Neiburg.
Hi, John.
The man, the myth, the legend. How long
More
have we
of
known
a
each other?
myth.
More of a myth?
Yeah.
Yes. Jeff and I are currently trying to get a double date on the books so Chelsea and I can hang out with his beautiful wife, Lisa. And the plan is dinner in South Philly, lights on Miracle on 13th Street.
Miracle on 13th Street. It's going to take you back to your time when you used to live down in these parts.
Yes. I was by 12th and Wolf. You guys are, can I dox you?
I'm not going to put my address on
too many people. You got too many Emmys. So Jeff covers.
You want my? I'll do my social though.
All right. Yeah. Where can people follow?
I won't do the address. No. My social security number.
No, yeah.
I'm not going to give my address, but I will give my social.
Just give all your personal information.
I thought you were like, I'll drop my socials on there. No.
I'm just plugging my own social media.
I mean,
like 4 seconds in. Yeah. So thanks for having me.
By the way, you can find me. You can find me anywhere else other than here.
Yes, I am on Blue Sky.
What's
Jeff
the ad?
Covers a little bit of. What'd you say?
I said, what's your ad? Where can they find you on Blue Sky?
Does anybody give out their full ad? Because you have to include like the .bsky.social. I mean, if you're going to give the full thing.
I'm actually not on Blue Sky yet, so I will. I don't know, but I mean, I feel like if you want people to find you, you have to. You
don't have the guys on Blue Sky yet.
I don't. I mean, I can't.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I'm ready. I'm ready to make the switch over. Believe me, I'm more than ready. To make the switch.
If we're being, like, I have no loyalty to Elon Musk. I
That's
have
not what I heard.
absolutely no interest in building another social media following.
I think that's
It
my
is
thing.
for
That's my thing.
I have a Blue Sky, but like I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I forget. Like, and I know there's like Buffer or something. Like there's like something you could. There's an app called Buffer, and it'll send your X and your Sky and your Thread.
Oh, really?
All at once.
Oh, okay.
To all 3 platforms. Yeah,
that would actually be.
It's in the name. It's a Buffer. I do not work for Buffer.
This is not an ad.
I'm happy that this is not hashtag.
You do a good Michael
SponCon,
Buffer though.
but I've always heard that about me, but I've never actually done it. Everybody just assumes I do it. Let's get ready to rumble.
There you go. Not bad. Not bad. Oh, he's still drawing it out.
That was good. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so Jeff, we can talk to you about literally anything here today. We'll talk food a little bit later, but you're on the Eagles beat, but you are also just a jack of all trades, general assignment report. We'll start with Temple and some Big Five. Are you covering the game today or no?
The basketball game, yes,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay, so
will you be there?
I will be there. Yeah, maybe we could walk up there together if we leave now.
It would be an annoying walk. It's a little cold out. It's the
super
bite
cold.
of winter. I like winter. We'll get back on track in a second, but I just want to put this in your head now before we leave. There's no assigned seating on Media Row, so let's
we
make
can
sure
sit next
I'm going
to
to
each
save
other.
a seat for you is what
Yes.
I'm getting at here.
Our friend Jordan Viner made that quite clear.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Temple LaSalle game first, and we want to ask you some Eagles stuff too because you're on the Eagles beat. Are you on the same page with us? And like, this is a game that Temple probably could and should win, but LaSalle's got some energy and some juice. I know that they really haven't had any super challenging games. They lost 2 out of 3 at that battle by what was it called? Where did they play?
Something in Daytona. I don't know what it's called. I mean,
Yes.
if you've mastered all of these MTEs at this point, like you're an
Yeah.
insane person.
Yes.
There's there's a different one every year with a different name. They played in Daytona, Florida.
Yes.
That's all I got for you.
So, but today could be tricky for Temple because, again, like Jaleel White's playing well. Jaleel White is doing what I think Fran Dunphy would want him to do. He's choosing his shots well. I think he's like 3 of 5 from three-point range. He's not shooting a ton of threes, but he's made them. But he stayed healthy. And Dump's got everybody on that roster playing probably above where they typically have played in the past. What are you expecting in today's game?
Flip a coin. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a one that's like I mean, the point spread tells you it's a coin flip game, but
Yeah.
I heard you talking a little earlier, and I was talking to Andy about this. It's like LaSalle's Super Bowl, right? I mean, it's not so much for Temple. I don't really buy into all that. Like,
Yeah.
The game has to be played, and the team has to win. It's not
Yeah.
like I don't think it's like there's something you can quantify about the game being so important to LaSalle and not so important to Temple. It's why isn't it an important game for Temple? Like, let's flip that around. Why is it LaSalle's Super Bowl and not Temple's?
Oh no!
Why wouldn't Temple want to be in the
Yeah,
Big Five
because,
championship?
again,
They're playing a good non-conference game against St. Joe's in the
Yep.
final. I mean, this
Yeah.
is a huge game for Temple. This is not LaSalle's Super Bowl.
No.
LaSalle's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Temple plans on like making a run in the American. This is a huge game for Temple. You don't
Yeah.
lose to LaSalle
Right.
if you have any aspirations of doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's no analysis on the game itself, which is the question you asked me. What am I expecting today?
No, that all makes
like
sense.
Temple's like the better, like on paper, the better team, with the best player on the court.
Yeah.
So like, who's going to win? I think Mashburn is the reason why Temple wins the game.
Mhm.
But it's truly could go any type of way. Temple shoots a little cold, and LaSalle gets out in transition and gets some easy buckets. LaSalle wins. I mean, but if a normal basketball, the game happens the way it probably should happen, Temple should win the game.
Let's talk about now Jamal Mashburn, obviously, with college basketball in 2024. He's not a guy that, like, the previous staff recruited or that even Fran Dunphy or Aaron McKee recruited, but obviously the most important transfer portal pickup for Temple. When was the last time you saw Temple get this level of guard play from anybody in the past?
Khalif Wyatt and Will Cummings?
Yeah, maybe so, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe one of the DeCozy years.
Yes. Thank you, Ray. Ray
See you,
Dunne.
Ray. Maybe one of the DeCozy years.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, am I going too far back?
No, I mean, like, I think in terms of, like, Quentin DeCozy was very good. He was a volume scorer. But if you think of, like, again, we are very, very early on in the season, so Temple hasn't won. They don't have, like, a signature win yet, as cliche of a term as that is. But in terms of, like, body control and, like, they get a guy and he has been as good as advertised, yeah, maybe a guy like Khalif Wyatt.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. Will Cummings had his own trades, was probably a very underrated point guard. He's made a lot of money overseas. Like I said, DeCozy, volume scorer. People sometimes give him too hard of a time because they felt like, did he come up big enough in this game or that game? But I've just been impressed with Mashburn. I think the dynamic's going to be interesting when they get Lynn Greer back in the mix after he's serving his 9-game suspension. But what has impressed you with Jamal Mashburn? Obviously, scoring the ball, he's surpassed the 20-point mark or scored at least 20 points every single game so far. But like beyond just the numbers, what do you like of him that you've seen so far?
I mean, like the ability to just go somewhere new and completely take over and be the guy. I mean, I know that's like what Temple brought him in for and what you get a player like that in the transfer portal to do, but doing it is not the same thing. I mean, the amount of times you're just consistently going into the mid 20 points and shooting at a high clip. And, you know, I don't like, he's not going to be a 50+% 3-point shooter all season long, but the sample size keeps growing and growing and saying he's like an elite shooter who's doing a lot of things. I mean, that's probably the most impressive part. I mean, you said away from the numbers. I think the numbers are the most impressive thing to me. You know, it's, like I said, like this is the player you thought you were going to get, but him doing the things is another thing. I mean, you have to play the games.
Yeah. What do you think of the job that Adam Fisher has done so far? Certainly had an interesting tenure with some challenges that weren't really his fault. I mean, they lose 10 games in a row last season. And then after the UAB game last March, when they get their clocks clean, then the reports start to come out about the U.S. integrity reports. With that looming in the background, they beat UTSA by the skin of their teeth. They beat them again. And then they fall short, just a game short of going to the NCAA tournament. Again, they lose to UAB again, which was clearly they were the better team, better, you know, just more talent, more athletic. But that season could have really, really gone downhill, especially after the gambling reports came out. Now, of course, the result of that investigation, Lynn Greer III, who gets kind of trying to think the best way to explain this when they had to do more investigating, everybody's phones get turned over. Lynn Greer had some a violation that happened when he was at St. Joe's here without him for 9 games. And it can be a distraction, and yet they almost got to the NCAA tournament last year. We'll see what happens this year. But all things considered, with that in the background and now the foreground sometimes, what do you think of the job that Adam's done?
A+. I mean, is there anybody who could, like, what else could he have done? This is like as good as you could expect the outcome to be to this point. I mean, to get the roster they got, to get Mashburn, I know there's like NIL components to that. Like there's that run was important to do that. If Temple doesn't go to the final, do they raise enough money to get this kind of roster? Maybe not. I mean, it's just been an incredible job. I mean, and the recruiting class they got coming in next year, I mean, this isn't a typical American Athletic Conference recruiting class. I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Cam Wallace at the Westtown School and Cam Miles down at IMG, who's playing really like one of the best post-grad point guards in the country right now.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to have that kind of momentum, I know like momentum's like a cliche thing, but you need it as a program. It's important. It drives kids to your program. It drives money to your program. But to have him sort of facilitate the program through that rocky time and end up where they are now. I mean, I don't want to give anybody their flowers too early in the season. It's very early, but things are certainly trending in the right direction. It's hard not to look at Adam Fisher right now and want to give him a contract extension. I mean, that's like, this is the kind of guy you want leading your program. It appears that way right now.
What else would you need to see? And again, I know you get spread really thin because really your primary responsibility now is the Eagles beat. And I guess you're heading down to Baltimore tomorrow. Is that a day trip for you tomorrow?
Yeah, up and back.
Okay. Yeah. So
down and back, I should say.
So, and you're going to all the road games and stuff. So, but you see some college basketball here in the city and cover it. Beyond Jamal Mashburn Jr., what else do you need to see from Temple to where you could say, okay, well, now they're in the mix in March, but not because they have to go on a run because they're trying to overcome a 10-game losing streak. What else do you need to see from them beyond Jamal Mashburn for them to be among maybe the top 2, 3, or 4 teams in the American?
I think we need to see what it looks like with Lynn Greer. I mean, I think that's that's what you need to see. Like, because who knows? You're inserting a sort of ball dominant guard into the lineup, and like, what is that? What are the repercussions of that?
Yeah.
Lynn is a really good player. At times is a really inconsistent scorer, and sometimes has the ball in his hands too often than he probably should, creating. Now, is having Mashburn next to him sort of like maybe the best case scenario? Probably, but he also had Eric Reynolds next to him at St. Joe's last year, and at times tried to do too much creating when so I want to see what it looks like there. But roster wise, I mean, putting him back in the lineup should only be a good thing. It should make the starting five and most times you have a unit on the floor pretty balanced. But I just want to see what that looks like. I think most of the secondary pieces right now are giving you exactly what you'd want them to give you.
Yeah.
But what does it all look like when Lynn comes back? And that's how we'll know pretty soon after he comes back what it all looks like and what the ceiling is.
Yeah, it's a shame we won't see him. We certainly won't see him today. We won't see him next weekend in the Big Five Classic, regardless of their
game
playing.
after, right?
Would have been a great, we'll see him against Hofstra when they're at Hofstra.
Yeah, he missed the Holy Family game.
Yeah. So, and again, just before fans flip out, a lot of programs playing D2 schools. So that's always.
I didn't mean anybody to flip out. I did not intend
I'm
for
not
anybody
saying
to
you're
flip
flipping
out.
but we get a question about that every once in a while. So,
teams do it now. Fran scheduled Rosemont last year.
Yeah.
At LaSalle.
Yeah.
And I actually went to that game for some reason. I was working on a feature about Deshaun Shepard, and the only time I could really get down there that week was to watch him play Rosemont.
Were you hoping the game was going to be at Rosemont?
Yeah, I was, selfishly. But
just right on Lancaster Avenue.
Deshaun Shepard
hit Campus Corner after
did exactly what he would do against Rosemont. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about before we get to the Temple football coaching search, rest of the Big Five, the Villanova question.
Yeah.
With Kyle Neptune, I imagine, again, they've routed Penn, but they've been inconsistent. I know he's been under a microscope. Anybody who's going to take over for Jay Wright would be. What's your temperature on how things are at Villanova right now?
Really hot.
Yeah.
It's steamy. It's
in a sauna.
Yeah, it's a sauna actually. Yeah, I mean,
and new athletic director.
They introduced the new AD
who was at Temple before. Yep. I think it's a really good hire on their part. By the way, Eric's a really good AD.
He at his introductory press conference this week, he used the phrase, "Winning in basketball is very important." And it is very important to that school. It's very important. Yeah. It's helped build
buildings.
It has built buildings on that school. You drive down Lancaster Avenue, you can see what Jay Wright's tenure did to that campus. They're not going to take losing much longer.
Yeah.
I think going into this year was pretty obvious that unless they made the tournament, Kyle was probably gone. There was probably grounds to part ways with them after last season. And certainly there were plenty of alums and donors who wanted that to happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, things are trending in the wrong direction. Obviously, they're not getting any better. They don't look. Their best win is against Rider.
Yeah,
they've played some decent teams. Their best win is against Rider.
Do you think they have it in them? Like we said, the beginning of the college basketball season is weird. Well, UConn, bizarre right now. Still a really, really good team. But do you think Villanova has it in them to right the ship and go on a run and get to the tournament?
If you asked me that a week ago, I would have said no, but I think the Big East is not as good as some people think it is. The teams are losing a lot of games.
Yeah.
There's talent there. Anytime you have Eric Dixon on your team, you can win any game. Yeah. Eric single-handedly won them the Battle for Atlantis last year, destroyed Armando Bacot at UNC. He's a really, really good player. He's third in the nation in scoring right now. So he will give them a puncher's chance in every game. I do not think they're anywhere near as good defensively as they were last season. Obviously, it's a completely different roster. They've got some big problems on that end of the floor. But even if they've set themselves up that even if they went 500, 10-10 in the Big East, or by some token they go 11-9, that's not good enough. They're not making a tournament with that number.
Yeah.
The Big East doesn't feel like it's going to be it was a 3-bid league last year because there were a couple wonky things that happened during conference tournament week, but it does not appear it's going to be a 5-bid league this year, even a 4-bid. It's 10-10 is not going to do it. Last year it had them right on the bubble. Mm-hmm. This year it's not going to do it. So a long way of saying there's talent there to win games. I think it's crazy to expect them to right the ship enough for it to matter.
One of the things on a different sport, but earlier this week, I was talking to Everett Withers that it's going to be Temple's interim coach for one last game here, and I think Temple's losing 10-0 already to North Texas down at the link. So, but we were just talking about the state of college athletics. Someone like Everett's great to talk to. This is last game as a coach. He has, as I said in our podcast earlier this week, has 0 Fs to give. He's going to be really honest, and we talked about NIL revenue sharing and how one of the downsides of it can be donor fatigue, where like you could get a great influx of donations and people saying we're going to support NIL, we want to help you bolster your roster. I would imagine at Nova maybe there's a little bit of donor fatigue because they have spent on NIL. I mean, they have done a good job there of committing to it. I would imagine that a guy like Wilga Poplar being well compensated, Eric Dixon being well compensated to stay.
There's a reason why Eric Dixon's not currently playing professional basketball, and it's because he's making more money at Villanova than he would if he was playing professionally.
And so do you see that as part of the problem there at Nova where, like, donors are saying, like, hey, I'm not getting a return on my investment right now? I never thought I'd be saying that in 2024 when we're talking about college athletics, but you think that's part of what fuels the discontent there?
Totally. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody who feels this way, but I do subscribe to a couple of Villanova message boards, and I've seen people.
God bless you.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm talking about message boards just in general. I'm not taking a shot at the Villanova fan base. So.
Yeah, I've seen people say that, like, one person I saw on this message board last week say he and his group of friends were like small donors to Villanova's NIL collective. And they're not going to support this administration. I mean, like coaching staff anymore. So I don't think that's a one-off. Obviously, it's a one-off to me, but I would assume there's a lot of people like that who just want a change.
Yeah, yeah.
Are they spoiled a little bit? Yeah, probably.
Oh, sure.
They are a very entitled fan base. But that being said, there are too many mechanisms in place for them to not win.
Yeah. Wanted to ask you about the Temple football coaching search. I know you're not like covering that as can't see. There
We're back. We're live. We're so live. This is show business, John. We are back.
Are we back, John?
Back and better than ever.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Just had
It's my fault.
A glitch there with our StreamYard connection. So sorry about that. Again, live at the South Philadelphia Tap Room, 1509 Mifflin Street near Broad and Mifflin. Come hang out with us for the last half hour or so. Jeff,
where were we?
We were talking about the Temple football coaching search.
We were.
Saying goodbye to Ramir Vaughn. Follow Ramir, who is now covering high school sports for
Ramir Vaughn on Twitter, RYMIRVAUGHN.
There we go.
It's called X. Have some respect.
Working for the Harrisburg Patriot News and Penn Live, covering some really good high school football there and high school sports. Ramirez, of course, worked with us in the past at OwlScoop. Jeff, the Temple football coaching search. So 3 of the names have emerged are Casey Keeler, Elijah Robinson, and Charles Huff, who's the head coach at Marshall.
We are.
Here we are. Yeah. The other we are.
The only we are.
I thought you were going to say Penn State.
No, Marshall.
I know. So
do you not like Matthew McConaughey?
I love Matthew McConaughey.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So,
back on track.
What do you think? Obviously, the Temple football program has been in a bad place ever since, Jeff Collins leaves. There's the Manny Diaz disaster, which gave us Rod Carey, and it's just been a bizarre stretch of Temple football. So here they are. They're 3-8. We'll see how things go today. Again, Jay, they're still down 10-0 to North Texas here. Still a 10-0 ball game. Yeah. So obviously the game today is immaterial, but I'd be shocked if by this time next week we're not talking about who the new head coach is. Of those 3 names, of Casey Keeler, I would say if they're looking at him, maybe they're trying to find like their Kurt Signetti. Elijah Robinson would be the Temple guy with institutional knowledge who was around when things were really good with Matt Rule. I look at Charles Huff as a guy that, like I said earlier, maybe he is who Arthur Johnson hoped Stan Drayton could become, a former assistant coach who coached running backs. Like he's coached Coach Najee Harris, Coach Saquon Barkley, who we'll talk about in a second. Took over a much better situation at Marshall. But if you were Arthur Johnson, of those 3 guys, and maybe there could be a dark horse that we're not talking about here, who would you hire as Temple's next head coach?
Elijah Robinson.
Why?
I don't know.
Is it because?
I
think we can see very clearly. At the beginning of the show, we had Kevin Negandhi on, and you could tell that I think Kevin thinks that Temple should go in that direction. Hiring Elijah, a guy that knows the blood and guts of Temple, knows how to win at Temple, knows how to recruit to Temple. We've heard from a bunch of people that Arthur is prioritizing head coaching experience. So if he's really, really prioritizing that, then maybe someone like Casey Keeler might have the edge. But why Elijah? Just because you think it would kind of reinvigorate the fan base to the degree that the Temple football fan base can be reinvigorated, but maybe get former players involved. Is that the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I just think about like Casey Keeler's probably 65 years old.
He is 65 years old. Yeah.
I'm not being ageist here, but
it's too late. You are.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just doesn't a 39-year-old who's never been a head coach have the juice in some ways? What is this job? I don't for Casey Keeler. Why even come here?
It's from Emmaus.
Yeah, it's like a retirement job. One last hurrah. I'm going to coach a Division I FBS team. Maybe he ends up being the guy, and that's fine. But if I'm looking for someone who can be a program changer, I want someone young and energetic, and who understands the place and the challenges that it faces, and who was here during some good times.
Yeah.
That to me would be more important than someone who's won at the one FCS level, and whose job this would be his final job.
Yeah.
And maybe
done a good job this year at Sam Houston State. Second year at the FBS level. Almost had them in the mix to win Conference USA. They'll go to a bowl game. They beat Liberty yesterday, but I hear you on that.
Yeah. Actually, this is me learning that they're no longer in FCS, which is kind of embarrassing.
No,
but I don't really follow Sam Houston State athletics very closely.
There's only
they don't pay me to do that. There's not enough brain space. But still, my point stands though. I just don't. And maybe Temple's tired of being. And if this is Arthur's direction, I think this would actually be the wrong one. If Temple's we don't want to be the stepping stone. We want to be someone's the job they really want. But Temple needs to view itself and should be viewing itself as a stepping stone. It's always going to be a stepping stone job. So to me, if you hired Elijah Robinson, 39 years old, he comes in and maybe changes the vibes around here for a couple years, and he goes somewhere else, is that the worst thing that ever happened?
No.
That's what you should be planning for.
No.
It's what Adam Fisher's job is right now. Temple's a place where you go and then you go to somewhere else. When you think Wallace plays 4 years for Temple basketball?
Can Wallace?
Yeah.
He has the potential to not play 4 years of Temple basketball.
Right, because he's going to go somewhere else that's going to pay him more and somewhere that betters his life.
Yeah.
Because Temple is not it cannot view itself as someone's be all end all. It is a mid-tier college program.
Andy Carl would maybe fight you for that.
he should be thinking that way too, and I think he does think that way.
Yeah.
It's any
Sure.
like this maybe applies more to lower level Division I basketball than Temple, but when you're going to and football, when you're recruiting a high school kid now, your pitch involves them going somewhere else. I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Adams does too. Maybe less so because the American is not the NEC.
Yeah,
but your pitch involves where you end up next, and I think Temple football should always think of itself that way. I don't want Casey like I wouldn't if I'm a Temple fan. I'm like, oh, I'm not excited by Casey Keeler because it's. And I'm not saying it would be a bad hire. It's probably a decent hire. I just want someone younger who's hungry to go do something else too.
Yeah.
Because it's not a place you're going to win a national championship, but it's a place where you can build a name for yourself.
Yeah. Want to talk to you about the Eagles as well. We've been able to blend in some pro sports talk here with Ray and with Todd Zolecki. You know how much I love you. I'm embarrassed to admit that I did not get a chance to read your prediction yet. So I don't know what you predicted.
It just came out yesterday. It's not that embarrassing.
Still, I should have read it.
I didn't read it.
You didn't read it? Do you remember what you wrote?
I do.
What did you predict for tomorrow?
Eagles 27, Ravens 23.
Oh, so you're predicting Eagles win.
Yeah, two of us had Eagles win. Two of us had Eagles loss.
Who else had them winning? EJ?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know my guys.
I think EJ had a...
I know my EJ and I know my Jeff.
Ask filibuster for 30 seconds and I'll tell you who.
So why, as you're looking, why... Again, it should be cliche as it sounds. Super fun game to watch. Maybe a nerve-wracking game if you're an Eagles fan. But why do you think the Eagles are going to beat the Ravens tomorrow down there?
I noted in my predictions that I think it's like a little bit crazy to just look at, Baltimore's so good against the run and the Eagles are going to have trouble. It was EJ. I just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
Yes, Baltimore has the second-ranked run defense. Yes, they might be getting back a 355-pound interior lineman. Creates problems for teams that want to run the ball. 5 of their 12 games have been against 6 of the worst run offenses in football. They played 2 games against the 27th ranked team, and then a game each against 29, 30, 31, and 32. That's really bad.
Yeah.
They have not faced a team that does what the Eagles do. That do what the Eagles do.
Teams that do what the Eagles do. Yeah, you got it.
And I think the Eagles have all year long figured out a way to exert their will, especially in the second half. Now, it's a different type of game. Obviously, the Eagles are playing a team with a pretty robust offense and capable offense themselves. So if they have to play catch up, obviously they might not be able to lean on the run game the way they want to. But I'm just taking the team that has the better defense in a coin flip type of game with probably the better O-line and the better running back overall.
I feel like I've asked this question like 6 different ways, 6 different sports. Because we chat you up while you're covering the game and bug the hell out of you.
My phone's on silent.
Do
not disturb.
Every once in a while.
I'll chime. I'll respond every once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while.
That is to say you're not bugging me, though. That's what I mean.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
You could never bug me, but go ahead.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
So what's maybe surprised you the most about, I don't want to say the turnaround, but obviously after the Tampa loss, like early in the season, it was like, what's going on here? Obviously the defense has played better. Jalen hasn't turned the ball over. Saquon Barkley looks like the best player on planet Earth. Quingon Mitchell, the defense. What of everything that has kind of maybe galvanized? Is there something that you maybe weren't expecting or expecting as much of, where you've said, "Oh wow, okay, this is what has kicked it into extra gear for me"?
Yeah, I mean, I got to look at the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, you can't really be surprised by too much on offense. The Eagles have a good offensive line. They have Saquon Barkley. They've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and the rest of their weapons on offense.
Devontae playing tomorrow?
Huh?
Is Devontae playing tomorrow?
I do not know.
Okay.
I know as much as you do.
Okay.
Usually when these guys go ahead.
No.
Usually when guys get on the field in practice, it's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
But, it seemed like he wasn't trending that great, obviously early in the week, but we'll see. But to answer the question, it's got to be the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, you thought you'd see some improvement out of Nakobe Dean, but you didn't really know what you had in Zach Bond. The linebacker play, the way Nolan Smith's kind of come on in the last couple of weeks, which has been huge, obviously, as that position's now even more depleted.
Yeah.
So I think Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean. You asked about the turnaround. I think even during the early games, Dean was just, I think, okay in the beginning. Bond was really kind of playing well.
Yeah.
And I think Dean's been outstanding. And Nolan Smith's really come on. And those two things have been really crucial for the defense. Quinyon Mitchell, I mean, you saw this in the first couple games, so it doesn't really relate to the turnaround. But Quinyon Mitchell's ability to, like, step into the league and be a shutdown corner is really, really impressive. And, I mean, you look for, you knew the offense would probably look a little bit different and a little better. But to see this level of play from the defense is pretty surprising.
Yeah. Jeff, do you want to help us answer a couple of mailbag questions? Do you have time?
I have time, but I don't know if I'm going to be of any help.
Well, one of them, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Matt Deebs is the screen name, one of our subscribers. I want to congratulate Matt. I believe it was Matt Deebs who said he can't get down.
Yeah,
to the
12.
game.
Yeah, 12-day.
12-day-old child.
12-day-old child.
Congratulations, Matt. Two-part mailbag question. Number one, we talked about this earlier.
On his part. I mean,
Not dedication.
I mean, a real fan would just be at the game.
He'd be able to have a free hat if he came down.
Matt, we'll set aside a hat for you. Question number one, how big of an impact will Lynn Greer have when he returns in terms of rotation, defense, style of play, etc.? We talked about this a little while ago. I think it's interesting because I know that I wouldn't be critical of him for this. Jamal Mashburn Jr. at 6'2" probably needs to show people he can play on the ball and distribute and create if he wants to get to the NBA. But when Lynn comes into the mix, it takes some pressure off of Mashburn. How do you see – I know you talked about this a little bit earlier, but – what are you expecting? You think that's something they can figure out sooner rather than later? Lynn has been able to practice with the team, but replicating it on the court in live game situations is another thing. Yeah,
I think you nailed it. Like they've been practicing, so they kind of know what each other. But although you might know this answer better than me, Lynn's been practicing, but how much is he actually practicing? Jamal needs to work with the players he's actually playing with right now.
Yeah.
But they had all summer together.
Mm-hmm.
How does that stuff translate? Who knows? You're right. We need to see
part
it
of
in
the
the game.
summer together because Mash was rehabbing an injury down in Florida, so not as much of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that can be figured out fast. Like I said earlier, I think Lynn's kind of can be a bit ball dominant at times, and right now you don't want the ball in anybody else's hands other than Jamal. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's like I wouldn't be worried about it if I was a Temple fan. It's not something I'd be like, oh, Lynn's coming back. We're getting a more talented player into the starting five. Like, let's worry about what's the bad things that are going to happen. I would expect good, and maybe that's just my general outlook on life. I want to expect the best.
There we go.
And then deal with the worst when it comes.
I like it.
Glass half full.
Yeah.
Nice.
That glass is sort of half full.
I'd say it's more than half.
You are a very much a they're gonna win type of guy.
Yeah.
That is your famous line.
Yeah, usually they just win. The team that you're talking about in the
shout out Ari Rosenfeld, Andrew Albert, Brian Flynn, Garrett Miley.
Let's see if you get all the way there. There's one more.
Andrew Albert. I said
you missed one.
Andrew Albert, Ari Rosenfeld.
People
Brian
really care
Flynn,
about this too.
Garrett Miley.
Yeah, you're missing one. The youngest member of the group.
Oh, Jesus, Teddy. Oh, God, Teddy, I'm so sorry. I love you. Maybe it's because he's overseas or was overseas, and I don't feel as connected to him right now.
I'm embarrassed for you.
No, Teddy, I love you, buddy. And then Jeff and I, we're all in a group chat together. Second question from Matt Deeves. What's your go-to order at the bar? Or we'll change that to be either at the bar or the kitchen here at the South Philadelphia Tap Room. You are a huge fan of the wings.
I do like the wings here. My go-to order at the bar would probably just be like a hazy IPA.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Nice. Johnny, all the times you've been down here at the South Philly Tap Room. No, this is your first time here, right?
This is my first time here. I mean, it's a great
first time, long time.
Yeah, first time, long time. I really like the vibe here. I mean, I've heard a lot about this fried peanut butter and jelly. I feel like I have to try it.
It is good.
I mean, drink wise, you can never go wrong with like a Yingling or like a Miller Lite or something.
But Johnny's in college, so sometimes you can never go wrong with an ice cold Keystone Light either.
No, that's true. I mean, I'm at this point where it's like anything that's there, I'll drink it. That's the point of life that I'm in.
I don't want to get in trouble here.
I'm 22 now. I'm 22 now.
I know you're a senior.
So I'm a senior. Yeah.
I wasn't worried about breaking any laws.
No, don't worry.
My question to you is so.
To me or Johnny?
Do I eat? Well, to both of you, do I eat here when we're done and we're wrapping up in 16 minutes? Do I eat here? I got to eat a little something here because then we got to get on the road, because parking gets tight up at LaSalle, right?
I mean, you're leaving for like 1:00 to go to LaSalle.
That's too early?
Well, the media window doesn't open until 2:30.
All right, so we got time to eat here before we go up there. So the crab deviled eggs
you
really
can come
good.
to my apartment and have some Thanksgiving leftovers.
You could. No.
You don't want to do that. You want to eat here.
So we got a couple more mailbag questions to get to. Temple fan Al, another screen name from our message boards. Can whoever the next head coach is win right away, or are we looking at a rebuild, whoever it is? I don't think there is anything like a rebuild. There is an interesting CBS Sports did an article back in October, and this is on Casey Keeler. It kind of tells you where my mind is headed. I think he might be if you kind of said to me right now, who do you think the next coach is going to be? I would like to see Elijah Robinson be the next head coach at Temple. I think Arthur is probably leaning toward Casey Keeler. We will see. Things can always change. Things can break down with contract negotiations, stuff like that. But I don't think any of them are looking at a rebuild. Jeff made a very, very good point in that you want to bring guys in right away. You could say, hey, we'd love to keep you here 4 years, but if you're really good and Alabama wants you, what are we going to do? But I don't think there is a rebuild. This isn't – it's 2024. I'm not saying that the next coach is going to be able to come in and they're expected to go 12-0 and win the American and they're in the college football playoff. But,
I mean, is there any scenario where Temple has a winning record next year no matter who they hire? I mean, that's the root of the question is, are they going to win right away?
They should have had – there were winnable games in the schedule this year and they could have had a winning record this year. They're obviously not going to finish with a winning record. But I think the next head coach that comes in should be able to have a winning record next year. It depends on who they retain, who they can get in the portal.
Yeah, it's almost an impossible question to answer.
Yeah. But I don't think
it's possible? Sure. Until the portal cycle happens, who knows?
Right. No coach is going to come in here would be dumb enough to say, well, it's going to be a long road. We really have to rebuild the culture here. No, any coach is going to have to rebuild his own culture in a sense, but no, you got to be able to win right away. And again, I'm not saying they're going to be an 11 or 12 win team, but I think that question is answered differently now than it was several years ago. Another question to close us out. Screen name here is Wiser Al. Long time Al fan, first time posting. It's been written on Twitter a few times that no former what's that?
X.
Sorry. It's been written on X a few times that no former players have contributed to the NIL for Temple. Is that true? If so, how does the next staff change that? I don't have access to all of their donor records. I'd be a little shocked if at least a few former players had not contributed. I will say this, and talking to some people about this, I think generally speaking, I'm painting with a broad brush. I think a lot of former players might give back to their program and say, what do you need in the building? What do you need in the facility? What do you need in terms of training table meals and stuff like that, as opposed to donating right to a collective? I think sometimes players either feel funny about donating to a collective, or some of them might say, wish I had NIL.
Yeah, this wasn't around when I was here. What
wasn't around when I was here. Why should I donate to it now? But I think that some of them might say, what do you need in the building? Again, when Temple was in the Big East in the late 90s, early 2000s, their facilities aren't what they are now. Again, Temple doesn't have Alabama facilities, but EO's nice. They just got a brand new playing surface there, practice surface, but the building could still use some upgrades. I couldn't tell you for sure if not a single player has donated, but how's the next staff change that? I mean, they do what Stan Drayton did. Stan constantly had former players in. I couldn't say that he didn't do that. Rod Carey was terrible at that. Granted, they had some limitations during COVID, so they couldn't always bring guys in. There were literal restrictions on what they could do. I think it would be easier for Elijah Robinson to change it.
But you'll be able to judge. Is this actually something that's important to Temple? You'll know what the answer of who gets hired as head coach.
Yeah.
If Arthur hires Casey Keeler, which is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
The question doesn't matter. Well, you're like Casey Keeler is not going to be any better at engaging former players than Elijah.
Are we also shortchanging Casey Keeler? I mean, the guy isn't a moron. Like he's won.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying it's A. I'm not saying it's a bad hire. B. I'm saying that this question fundamentally is something that doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
You're not going to become a program that wins games because former players pay into the collective. That's just that's not going to be the changing of it. Yeah, of course it doesn't hurt. It's not going to be the difference. It's not you don't want to that's not the future of your program. Right. Your program can't be built on former players paying money for the next rosters after them.
Mm-hmm.
You need more of a robust system in place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
they can't just be Tyler Matakevich writes a $50,000 check every year. That just like and
Deion Dawkins.
yeah, right. Deion Dawkins, who could afford it more than Tyler.
Yeah.
That's just like that's not the recipe for winning.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, is it a problem? Sure. Is it like a big problem of Temple's that some alums aren't donating to the football program? Former players, I don't think it's like that big of a deal.
Well,
maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You're channeling Mike Kern there.
Well, Mike Kern. I don't know.
Another question here from Wiser Al. As I look at my phone here, Drayton's teams have struggled to be quote unquote tough, TUFF, the Temple thing, on all accounts, with no ability to ever grind out games and run the ball. The next coach needs a culture shift. Is it time to drop the single digit number a bit? It's not working, nor does it seem to inspire much momentum. No, I don't think
grasping at straws here.
Yeah. And again, Wiser, I sincerely do appreciate these questions. I think for a fan base like Temple's, I think if you drop the single digit tradition, this is a fan base that loves to complain. I think it would draw a lot of negative attention. Again, I don't think it moves the needle in either direction, but there's no reason to drop the single digit thing. Think of, granted, we are looking at a 3-8 team that's about to go 3-9. They are down 17-3 right now to North Texas, as we can see. But, you know, they have some single digits in the program right now that are good football players. They've had, if you're talking about, like, on one hand, Wiser Al, if you're talking about wanting to cultivate future donors, guys that could, donate to NIL collectives, and now Temple is about to be trailing 24-3. UNT has scored again. Think of the single digits that have come through, like guys like Muhammad Wilkerson, Tyler Matakevich, PJ Walker. These are really good football players.
Yeah.
And PJ's back up in the CFL, but he was good enough to be a backup in the NFL, start some games. Tyler is a special teams guy. Nothing would piss them off more than saying we're getting rid of the single digit tradition, and especially if it is a Casey Keeler or a Charles Huff, and they're a quote unquote outside guy. Yeah, we're gonna do, like, it didn't go over well when Steve Adazio didn't appreciate it. Again, do these things move the needle either way? No, but like Jeff said, I think you're really grasping at straws there. I don't think that dropping the single digit tradition is going to wake guys up and say, oh, this didn't really matter. Now we're going to go out and win 10 games next year.
I mean, I think talking to former players, not even former players, like players that are currently on the team now, like, it's something that they do strive for in the offseason, something that they work for. Like when you're a program like Temple and you need every edge you can get, like that, you got to do it. You got to do it in any way you can. And if it's putting that honorary single digits out there, like, I mean, you got to do what you can. I think it's something that is important.
There are only so many internal benchmarks at a place
Exactly.
like Temple, and I mean that like in a derogatory way, but like if you have an element of tradition in your program, I would always lean towards keeping it than getting rid of it.
I think it would do more harm than it would do good in this sense, and I don't even really know what the good in this sense would be.
Checking Twitter. We've got about 8 minutes left here. Checking Twitter for mailbag questions. I think we got...
Unless we got some in the last, 10 minutes. I don't think we got anything.
I don't know if we got any... Don't know if we got any on Twitter here.
This is good radio.
It is. This is great. I'm sure people appreciate this if you've hung with us. Got 7 minutes left here. So you're thinking, if you had to, again, I know you're not covering this as closely as you are the Eagles, but you're familiar with the Temple Athletic program. Do you think Arthur is leaning more toward a guy like a Casey Keeler or a Charles Huff? Do you think he's thinking like, hey, my job depends on this next hire? Arthur was candid enough about a month ago to admit an NIL event, and we talked about this earlier in the show, in media, hey, I should have done more to embrace NIL. He feels like he needs to get this hire right. I know he feels pressure to get every hire right. And again, maybe he hires Charles Huff and it's a good hire. Maybe he hires Casey Keeler, and Temple in its own way has its own Kurt Signetti, and it works out well. Do you think there might be an overcorrection forming in his brain, saying like, I tried the former assistant coach who just needed a shot, who had been at Texas, it didn't work out? Do you think he's leaning more toward like a Casey Keeler, or do you think it is possible for him to hire someone like Elijah Robinson?
The former. I mean, it's like when he's hiring for his own job,
which isn't a great place to be.
It's never a great place to be.
Yeah,
not a comfortable place to be. It's pressure packed. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to lean toward changing it up. I do not expect Elijah Robinson to be Temple's next coach. But
yeah, well, we're going to close things out here. We're a few minutes shy of 1 o'clock, but we're going to get out of here, have something to eat, head up to LaSalle again. You can follow Jeff. Are you coming up too? You coming to LaSalle again?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so,
Johnny
yeah.
Zwislak, Jeff Neiburg, and I will all be up at Glasser Arena.
John Glazer Arena.
John Glazer Arena.
The house that Tom Gola built.
Yes. So we'll be there.
The Alney Outlaws will not be there.
The who?
The Alney Outlaws.
Is that their?
That's like the student section.
They're not going to be there. Oh yeah,
break
Andrew
time.
Albert. Yeah. Hey, real fans show up during break.
You're right.
So,
They would.
Yeah. So
just like people who have 12-day-old children.
You can follow Jeff at the Inquirer. Jeff is going to be covering today's game. Follow him for great Eagles coverage as well. Follow Johnny and I for coverage as well. I want to thank John Longacre for hosting us today. Again, even if you were stopping by after our show, $3 Walt Whit's, $3 Kenzigers. The food here is incredible. I am looking forward to it. What do you think you're going to order?
I'm going home.
Oh, you are going home?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to eat something here.
Yeah.
I hate
to be bad. I couldn't.
All right.
I should have just made something up on the spot for the sake of radio.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, you know,
something, or I'm going to pass out.
Always,
so,
always.
what are you gonna
Yes,
have?
and yes. I
you
said it earlier. I'm gonna have the fried peanut butter and jelly.
All right. So Johnny and I are going to be ordering food here, but want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, we are going to be posting this to the site, so you can go back and watch it. Want to thank Kevin Negandhi, Todd Zolecki, Ray Dunne, and of course Jeff Neiburg. Want to thank Johnny for all his hard work today. Jason Yavis, Declan Landis, Ryan Mack, and Colin Schofield for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll try to do more of these in the future. Hope everybody had a wonderful, happy, and safe holiday. And hope you guys get to have a lot of fun with your family and friends as the holiday season moves forward. And we will talk to you soon.